Hola. Hello. Shalom, Burkaba. Welcome. I'm joined with Alfred and Andrew of Sons of Thunder Apologia.
I was almost Jim Gordon since you and Alfred. I thought about that.
Yeah. In the Lego Batman movie. Alfred essentially parent locks Batman's computer. and he's like, Bruce is like, "How did you get in my computer?" And he's like, "I used the password." He's like, "How did you know?" He was like, "It's still Alfred the Buttler with 2 T's." So that is what I named myself.
I saw the movie for the first time recently.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Classic.
I know.
So good.
My wife
I don't
said,
think I've seen all of it.
Oh, it's so good. It's not as good as the Lego movie, but it's really good.
Yep.
It's very good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I found it very funny.
So, we're going to go over textual corruption of the Bible and of the Quran. And I have some fun games that I'm going to try to figure out on the fly right now, see if Paint can do it. If not Paint, then I'll see if I can get my whiteboard or something to work. But I need to be able to type and draw. So, we're going to do a fun little game on textual criticism. And where is... Okay. See if this works.
This one should be obvious.
Font's terrible.
You're right. This one should be obvious, but we do this because it's not obvious. For some people.
Yes. Also, thank you so much, Joseph, for becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate it, brother. Okay. I'm not fully prepared for all the hadiths that show that the Quran's been corrupted, but we have enough of them that it shows that it's more corrupted than the Bible. Yeah. So, got my cow juice. I took a nap 40 minutes ago.
You were recharged, ready to go?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I didn't really sleep last night. Woke up at 6 this morning and then was in a 10-hour seminar. So, going over the English language in by a rhetorician and grammarian.
Wow.
My brain is slightly fried. Just being blunt, super honest. My brain is that's why I have my happy cow juice of caffeinated tea. So I'm not going to go bed till at least 1:30 today. That's fine. We might stream till then, and I'll be the only one left on because everyone else is going to be asleep.
Dude.
But
yeah,
yeah,
it's allergy season, man, and my head hurts.
Alfred is under the weather. Batman needs to figure out what he's doing with his life on his own.
I know.
Anyway,
Alfred
seems to also watch Doug. What are you talking about? My Moog is entirely my own invention.
There's a very short run of comics where Alfred is not the butler anymore after Nightfall, and he leaves because he's like, I'm not going to keep dealing with Bruce just doing whatever he wants when I keep trying to tell him he's got to not ruin his life. And they genuinely, it is a running joke that Bruce genuinely does not know how to do anything. He just orders pizza every day because he can't cook. He does not know how to wash clothes. He can't do anything. So it is absolutely real that Bruce would truly not be able to function as a human being if Alfred is sick.
Yeah. You're such an interesting person, Daddy Hickma. You always come on at the beginning of streams and then suggest something that's not on topic. And it's a different one each time. It's usually about the Talmud. Yes. I will eventually make a video on the fact that the Islamic sources calls Paul a Rasul, along with John and Peter. So if you just talk about the Gospel of John, which is quoted in Ibn Ishaq as the gospel, like the Injil, Peter and his epistles, which would also be the Gospel of Mark, and then Paul with his epistles, you get very standard Christianity, and they're all called Rasul. So, yeah, I'll make a video someday on that topic. It's fine. Yeah, today we're gonna be going through preservation versus corruption, and I want to define those terms real quick because people often use them fast and loosely in a way that doesn't really matter. And whenever Muslims quote like Bar Ehrman or any of these other textual critics, and I say, oh, well, the Quran's been corrupted, or not the Quran, the Bible has been corrupted thousands of times, hundreds of thousands of times. They don't understand that what the scholar means by corruption is not the same thing what they mean as corruption. And if they were to apply the same standard to the Quran, they would say that all of the Quran is corrupted. All of it, like every single word of the Quran has been corrupted by the scholarly perspective of corruption, not by the popular level. So we want to focus on two different questions. How stable is the canonically revealed text as we have it today, based on its earliest surviving witnesses? And how well scholars are able to reconstruct the original state? Those are two separate questions, and they're both related. The earliest testimony, the earliest witnesses we have for the Bible is pretty much exactly what we have now. The earliest witnesses of the Quran are not actually what we have now. There's differences there, which we'll go through. But of the Uthmanic recession, they are very, very identical. Now, there are still differences in Razm and other, like, it's not true that every dot for dot has been preserved inside the Quran. There are literal letter differences of the Arabic. So it's not just vowels, it's literal Razm, like consonantal text differences between manuscripts of the Quran, even after Uthman. So many scholars have attested to finding these. We found them, a bunch of them. We'll go over the Sana palimpsests tonight, and I'll go through 103 examples. So that will probably be the last half of the stream. We'll go over a couple, go through a deep, and then just read through the whole list, so we can see the corruptions of the Quran that has happened. And but there's also other manuscripts beyond those that have been taped, that have been erased, that have changes done on them, and there's thousands of those. So talking about like things that have been corrupted of the manuscripts, it's definitely happened. It's a lie that it didn't happen. It was a lie that was only told by Muslims in like the 80s and 90s. So this is a very new lie that most Muslims are now believing in, even though it is a lie. So,
well, you know, if Christianity had a story similar to the Quran's formation, if
we would freak out.
Yeah, well, if Christianity, they would have a field day if Christianity had a story with 7 different revealed languages, and 6 of them essentially were burned, and Uthman just, or what, we had one central figure just decide, okay, this is the one correct revelation. Muslims would pick that apart. And in the same way, if we could go back and say, yeah, this super special language that we have, that it has to be recited in this way, the original didn't have the qiraat, right? Like if we had something like that, they would again say, oh, your Bible has been corrupted. So it's not corruption when it works for the Quran, but it absolutely would be corruption if it was for the Bible.
Yep. Why does this matter for the Quran, though? And we'll get through the Al-Furuf. The Al-Furuf are actually one of the most damning pieces of evidence against the corruption of the Quran. Even if the Uthmanic recession we have now is legitimately from Muhammad as one of the 7, you still have 6 Aruf that are just gone from history. So at least 6/7 of the Quran has been destroyed and corrupted, just outright. So we already have a massive percentage of the Quran that's missing. But here we have that Allah in Surah 15, Ayah 9, Indeed, we revealed the reminder, and indeed, we are its guardians. There's a bunch of innas here. So whenever you start inna on a sentence, it is a affirmation of something that's true that's going to be said, which is why inna is in a full, I think it was either 2/3 or 1/3 of every ayah of the Quran has indeed in it. You see the next one also has indeed, because it's a grammatical structure that he uses, and then you can use it was like na instead of inna is just na to indicate that is continuing the previous thought. We see that with the surah on the jinn, surah al-jinn, that has a bunch of them back to back to back whenever the jinn are speaking. So there's just a different grammatical structure of the Arabic, which is why there's so many stupid indeeds. But he even throws it in mid-sentence, which is just like, I really hate this word. Now, indeed was one of my favorites, but reading through the Quran cover to cover last year made me hate the Quran. Well, it also made me hate indeed. Man, terrible, annoying word.
I feel that.
Anyway, this is Allah claiming to be the guardian of the revealed reminder, the Quran. The Quran. You also have in Surah 56, 77, a similar thing where he says that it is a noble Quran and a book kept hidden, which no one touches except the purified, a revelation from the Lord of the worlds. Not quite as strong as the other one. Then you also have 85, 21 through 22 with the glorious Quran on a preserved tablet in heaven. Now, most of the way that Muslims interpret those last two things is it is just the tablet in paradise or in the throne of Allah, near the throne of Allah, in the seventh heaven, the highest heaven. Just that is preserved, and the Qurans themselves are not preserved. That is some actual Muslim positions. It's way harder to say that of 15:9 though, because it just says that he's the guardian of the reminder in general. So, if the Quran is not preserved, we could say that Islam is kind of false. Now, of course, there are Muslim positions that allow for the Quran to be corrupted, and it's only the text in heaven that's not corrupted. That still doesn't really make any sense. Of course, the one in heaven can't be changed. If it can be changed, you have a massive problem.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, like, come on. Yeah. But there would be no reason to trust Allah in that case.
It's similar in argument to the whole thing about, the Jews, they changed the book with their hands, and how they like the physical paper book could change. That doesn't make all of them corrupt, right? If somebody has physically changed one, it does not entail that they have all now become corrupted, which is David Wood's main argument. But also, I mean, just in general, like, that verse is probably not talking about the Torah, but
correct.
Probably talking about the Talmud.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So
also, I think it's even funny just to think about that. The fact that the Torah is so, like, as I'm reading about Kabbalah, like, they're still like, they have this obsession with how perfect the Torah is. To think that any, like, devout practicing Jews would willingly change or alter the Torah. Get out of here.
Oh yeah, it's insane. We'll talk about the kosher scroll keeping a bit later on, but the cost of an average Torah scroll, because they're still written by hand, is like $20,000 because of how meticulous they are with making kosher scrolls, and they've done that for 1,000+ years. So we'll go through the preservation of the Old Testament a little bit, preservation of the New Testament a lot bit, and then the corruption of the Quran a good bit. But getting into the New Testament, and even the Old Testament, but the New Testament primarily is the one that they claim is so corrupted because they have a harder time reconciling the New Testament with the Quran than they do the Old Testament with the Quran. even though the Old Testament and the Quran do not work even a little bit together. But they're like, oh, well, it's just whatever changes, even though, anyway, we'll get to that in a bit. But the common way this is told by Muslims is the Bible you have now is not the original Bible as revealed by Isa. Instead, what we have is a Bible that was originally written in Aramaic, because that was the language of the Jews at the time. Then that was then translated into Greek. That was then translated into Latin. And that was then translated into German. And then that was translated into English. And you don't just have one English translation, you have hundreds of them. So how in the world is the King James Version, is that the word of God? Or is it the NIV? Is that the word of God? Is it the NASB or the LSB or the Son of the B? Is that those the words of God? What is the word of God? We've heard this a lot.
The Watchtower.
The New World Translation.
New World Translation. That's the true word of God.
No, it's the Joseph Smith, the JSB. Anyway. Oh man, we need to do something on Mormonism soon.
We will.
We will. Oh, we are.
Anyway, that's not true. None of that is true. But oh, so you don't even just have that. You have a translation of a translation of a translation of a translation, and it's all just the telephone game. You have one scribe using another scribe, then he dies, then using that scribe uses another scribe, and he's dead, so you can't talk to him. So just scribes bouncing around from scribes, and then you even translate languages in between. How in the world could you trust any of it? And all of that is a lie. First off, the New Testament was not written in Aramaic; it was written in Greek on purpose, intentionally. Why? Millions of people spoke Greek.
Mm-hmm.
Hundreds of thousands of spoke Aramaic. Like the scale difference you have there. If you want this word to be available to all people, and by the time that it was being written, there were already Gentiles in the fold. So you want it to be as accessible to non-Jews. And then you just don't write in Aramaic. All the Jews know Greek anyway. So yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. It is directly from these languages. You don't have to go through anything else. Like the English translation we have now is translated directly from Greek. So it's not translated from Latin. It's not translated from German. It's not translated from Syriac or Aramaic or any of these other languages. It's translated from the Greek. So we have direct communication. We don't have to rely on any of those other sources. Now, we can use those sources to see how it changes and if there's any differences and all that stuff, and we do, and it's super helpful. But when we're talking about Bible preservation, we're not talking about the English. We're talking about the Greek, the autograph. The autograph we don't have, so the original manuscripts we don't have. They turned to ash almost 2,000 years ago. But we can reconstruct the original. And I want to go through some examples on how we can reconstruct the original, and it's pretty fun. So, any thoughts on any of that before I move on?
No, but I did find what we were looking for, Chris.
Nice. You put that in the private chat? Oh, Andrew put knock knock in the private chat.
Let me make sure.
I was like, please let me up.
Allah's the greatest of deceivers, and Muhammad is the greatest receiver. This is the proof. Yeah. Was it the type of ink? Not sure you mean about the kosher ink is a thing. Not sure what you mean beyond that. Anyway. Yeah, so textual criticism is the study of how to revive a text back to its original state. You can compare the manuscripts we have and then get back to one original version. And this is important whenever we talk about errors in the Quran or errors in the Bible and the variants we have. there are around 138,000 words in the Greek New Testament, specifically the Greek, or the critical text that we use today to translate from. There are around 500,000 variants within the Greek manuscripts that we have. So there's like nearly triple the amount of variants than there are the amount of words in the New Testament. There's around 3 variants per word. Now, Muslims might be like, oh, that's a slam dunk case. The Bible's been corrupted. Well, what are the type of variants we're looking at, and how many copies are those variants coming from? Because that exponentially matters for how many differences you can get between 2 manuscripts. If you had 2 manuscripts and every single word was different, you would get at most 138,000 variants. But we don't just have 2 manuscripts to do get all these variants from. We have 5,865 Greek New Testament manuscripts that we can find all these variants from. So you would then divide 500,000 by 5,800, and you get to less than 100 variants per manuscript of the Greek New Testament. So it's already a much smaller problem than what people realize. But whenever we're looking at this, we can see, okay, what does this sentence say? And what does it say in all of the manuscripts we have for that section? And then you can compare them. And that is what textual criticism is doing. We'll do an example of it together to try to create the original text that I invented. I have 15 examples to pull from, and you guys are going to have to guess what the exact wording was of a sentence that I made. It's going to be fun. But we don't just have the Greek manuscripts. We also have 10,000 Latin manuscripts of which we can pull from to translate the original text and also to reconstruct the original text. We don't just have the 5,000 Greek and the 10,000 Latin. We also have 10,000 other languages, such as like Hebrew, Syriac, Gaelic, Gothic, Armenian, Coptic. Like, we have so many other languages that the Bible is translated into before the printing press that it's kind of insane. So we have around 25,000 manuscripts of which we can pull the Greek New Testament or just the New Testament text from. And then from that, we have over 1 million quotations by church fathers of the Greek and Latin New Testament. So even if we didn't have any of the manuscripts we actually have, which we have, tens of thousands, if we didn't have any of that, we could reconstruct the New Testament many times over by just the church fathers. And the church fathers also talked about textual variants that they found in the manuscripts they had in their hands. So we can actually easily trace back changes that happened in the Bible at that moment in time, and we can get the almost the exact scribe or the exact time period, within 50 years of that translation or of that Greek text changed. So if we're talking about like Jerome's Vulgate, the first official Latin translation of the Bible, that introduced some changes. We can then trace all of the changes back that come from Jerome's Latin text to him. And then we can say, okay, well, we can ignore everything that comes after that for that change. And then we can try to trace it back earlier. So we have a bunch of early manuscripts. Within the first 900 years of Christianity, we have over 1,000 Greek manuscripts. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a whole lot.
That's a lot.
For most classical Greek writers that were writing during the time period of the New Testament authors, we have less than 15 manuscripts on average for all of those works. And of that, most of them come at least 400 to 800 years after for the oldest surviving manuscripts. We have manuscripts of the Bible that are likely from 50 years after the original composition. That's crazy. We have over 100 manuscripts within the first 300 years of that first one. So it's like exponentially more manuscripts of the Bible than we have of any other classical text, other than the Quran. So the Quran, but the Quran comes 600 years later, which we'll talk about, and how that makes a difference between these two. But let's get into some of this stuff. I want to do the game real quick. Read through the comments. See if anything interesting you have, guys anything to add on that section?
I mean,
I
think
yeah.
I think that's one of like the best arguments for Christianity is the fact that we can preserve. I mean, we can literally recreate the entire Bible from just the writings of the church fathers. I think that's so impressive, and I don't know, that to me is like, I've used that several times as my go-to argument for the preservation of the New Testament.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
and like, and I think kind of in the same sense of like, if somebody was to do a like, you know, when you have the argument for the Gospels is like, if you have slightly different accounts, it's actually more credibility because if they were all perfectly correct, then it would be, or not correct, sorry, but perfectly in line with each other, it would look like corroboration, like they were all working together to write these. In the same sense, like the fact that we have these like these slight differences in grammatical or like where a punctuation should be. I mean, it just proves that within the first 300 years of Christianity, as they were, you know, as they were copying these down, they were doing this in a rush because they were under persecution.
Mm.
Like we have variants because of the fact that they were doing this over time when they were having to do it in secret and in a rush. So some of the manuscripts that are found have, you know, grammatical differences, and it's evidence of what we already believe. So it's just like, I don't know. That's a great argument to me, but
Yeah. We'll go through some of those variants and some of the things that were added to the Bible, as well as some of the things that were changed that actually make Christ less godly. So there's a bunch of changes that make the Trinity more explicit or make Jesus sound like slightly more divine. And then there's a number of changes that make Christ less divine. So it's not just like, oh, like Constantine's making uh Christ God and he wasn't God before that point. Like we have early manuscripts of Jude, for example, that says Jesus as God instead of Lord. That's pretty significant. So it's actually denoting, like, so that's why some Bible translations actually have Jesus there in Jude 5, where it says that Jesus led them out of Egypt instead of the Lord led them out of Egypt. That is didn't like that had Jesus as God, then they're reducing that. But let's play a game. What was the original text of this sentence? So, that meet at the okay. So this is your first manuscript. What is the original text say of this sentence?
wait, hold on. Okay, rephrase the question, or state the question again.
Okay, we're doing textual criticism to figure out what the original sentence would have said in the original document.
Right.
Okay, you're looking at 15 manuscripts. This is the first manuscript you have. What was the original based on this manuscript?
If this is the only one we have to look like, if this is the only one we got to look at, then this is kind of, I mean, we can just assume that there's a good chance this is what it looked like.
Yeah, until we see all the other ones.
Yeah, until we see the other ones, we have no corroborating. Like, there's no way we can know.
Right.
It's kind of like a 50-50 state in the moment until we look at all the other ones and we can actually observe.
Yeah, it's just like your best guess. Now, what if I were to throw out this hot one at you? What now do you think is the original?
I think the original one probably said that Jesus wasn't crucified and that he wasn't the Son of God, and that he didn't raise from the dead because he never died.
I think, anyways, I think that can we get a third one, please? Oh well. Now
Man,
now I
what
don't
a-
even know what to think, Chris.
dude, it could have said anything at this point.
Okay, so what I would argue, if I have 3 documents like this, what I would know is that this is a conversation between 2 individuals. The scheduled time is 8:30, or is between 8 and 9. One of them has food to bring to the other one, and they're meeting at a train station. So I have a lot of information, but I don't
Mhm.
necessarily have consistency within the information. So I don't know
Correct.
which one to actually trust yet, but I can at least state these were the things that were happening.
Right. So if we only had these 3 manuscripts, we would be mostly there, but we would be unsure if it's AM or PM, if it is 8 or 8:30, if it is like, so we have some wording that we're still not sure of if we only have 3 manuscripts. With the Quran, we only have 1, so we just have to take its word for it. Other than actually the pre-Uthmanic recessions, which we have, which contradicts. So we actually have 2, at least we have 2 or like 5 different versions of the Quran you can work from. And they don't agree. So whereas the Bible, we have thousands of manuscripts, the Quran only has a handful. So we either blindly trust it or we are more skeptical of the original text. That's just kind of the state that you have to be in. But we can actually go further.
Before we do this next one, I just genuinely want to say, and I know he might just be a troll, Atheist G2R, bro. I don't even know where you're coming up with some of your arguments. I don't actually think you understand what a god is.
That's so mad.
I actually think
beginning and older than the universe.
May
How
just
is he
not
still
know what God
alive?
is.
That's a good.
Oh,
That's a good question though. Like I never considered that. Like how
that has to be a troll.
Idiot.
Yeah,
He is a
His
troll.
name is Atheist G2R, and I can't imagine a thinking human being came up with that question.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
TRT, you are doing the literal, like when the Bible says don't cast your pearls before swine. I mean, you're doing it right now. Don't worry. This is a troll.
Yeah.
No, you don't actually. You don't know what we think a god is because you don't know what a god is. If you think that, you're a troll, man.
Right.
And hey, that's not what the stream's about. So we're gonna get back to being focused on what the stream's about. And if you want to keep talking about that, nobody answer him. We're talking about corruption or preservation right now.
So, Spice Boy, you've been in my comments a lot lately. I don't know if you're going to stick around in the stream long enough to actually hear the argument for the Quran's corruption. The Quran that you are recited and memorized right now, how old is it? It's 102 years old. That's it.
I very highly doubt you were a Christian 2 years ago.
So,
you say the Quran as of today is only 102 years old?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
It came about in 1924 in Cairo, Egypt.
Yep.
They had multiple. So in the masjid, they were teaching from the Hafs in Cairo because that was their dominant qira'at. They wanted to standardize it because they had multiple versions of the Hafs. So when you think about like, okay, if you have multiple like versions of the qira'at, it's fine, it's whatever. How do you have pre-tell? Think about it. How do you have different versions of a same qira'at? Because they had multiple Hafs to work from. So what is different about those different Hafs if they're not the same? Can't be the vowels.
It's a good question.
They had letter differences. They had sentence differences.
They
had structure differences.
Yeah, it's like what Adam told us about.
They made one standardized Quran, and then there is a report that we can't substitute. Like we cannot verify if this is actually true or not. We haven't done that yet. We haven't found it. But there was a report by Gabriel Seth Reynolds that they tossed the other ones into the Nile and then printed out en masse in 1924 the version that they have then. That is unverified, but we do know that there was multiple versions of the Hafs that they then centralized into one document in 1924, spread that all over the Muslim world, and now 80% of Muslims use the same Quran, which is why they started to do the dot for dot preservation lie in the 1980s and 90s, because they're like, oh yeah, all of our Qurans are the same, and they just pretended that was always the case. It's not always the case. I'll get through it. Recitation style is not version. I understand you believe that. There are different versions as well, which we'll go through if you give me enough time. Right now, we're going through the corruption of the Bible to compare the two. So, this is our fourth sentence. What do you think now?
How is recitation style not version? Just curious.
Yeah.
Because like the ESV and the NASB, the NASB 95 and NASB 20 are very similar. But you would still consider them different versions because
Yeah,
they
that's
are.
a great argument. Great point. If we're going to try and argue that recitation style isn't a change, then you cannot claim that these different English translations are different. That's all the same Bible. That's all the same Bible.
Yeah, they're just different. They're just different versions.
Yeah. So this
I
fourth
think
manuscript.
what we can gather from these manuscripts is that there was a centralized location at which a person is asking another we can assume in the morning, because there's 2 a.m.s and there's one ambiguous and 1 p.m. So we can assume it's probably in the morning to have food with them.
Not good.
No, not good, because there's only one of them. And it's probably the train station, because even though one of them says bus station and the other one just says station, 2 of them say train station.
They're definitely meeting. We can say that much. We can confirm with pretty much 100% accuracy they're going to meet somewhere.
Okay, this is your fifth one.
I would say again, we're closing in
Hey,
on
we're
the
getting
train
closer.
being correct.
Heck yeah, man. Not in the Alzoot sense. Here. I'm going to change. Yeah, give me a second.
Ooh, now we're changing tenses. I don't know. The perspective's changing.
So now we have to meet you with the foods, and it's 9:30, and then meet me. Meet me at the train station with the food. So now there's no time, and then meet me at train station at 30. I get moody with it, not foodie with it.
Oh my goodness.
Wait, did I already do that? Oh no, I think I did that already. Oh no, I didn't. Mood, food. So meet at train station at 8:30. Oh, this one is ambiguous too. With the food, and then meet me at the terminal at 8:30. With
Spice
the
Boy.
cheese.
Spice Boy, if you go back to like the beginning of the stream, that question got answered. That statement got answered.
Oh, did you say the? Yeah, this is literally what we're doing now.
Also, that
the
second
variants
comment,
are a good thing.
Yeah, we're not against variance. We're
variance
using your
helps.
logic. We're using your logic to explain how it's inconsistent. That's not even true. We don't view that different variants created different versions. We're using the logic to say that if you don't view that different recitation styles create different versions. All right, dude. I'll let Chris get all of his thoughts out with that, because you're not understanding.
Yeah, no, this guy. Yeah. So we have 15 versions now to look through, to consider. Which one is right? What is the original text? We have a stadio instead of a train station. We have with bread, we have with cheese, we have with food, we have with foods, we have with good, we have with mood. We have AM, we have 9:30, we have nothing, you have 8, you have 8 AM, 8 PM. Sometimes with the train, sometimes without the train, sometimes with the station, without the station, sometimes with bus, sometimes with meeting you, meeting I, no meeting, and then just me at the train. So, and then also met me. That's a fun one. What was the original text as given based on these 15 examples? Can you reconstruct it?
So
What's your
obviously,
proposed sentence?
obviously we can include meat.
Mhm.
Meat is absolutely in the original sentence. Because I count, so out of the 15 you've provided, 11 of them are at 8:30 and 10 of them are at 8:30 a.m. So
Mhm.
I would 100% say we can say with probably about 90% certainty they were meeting at 8:30 a.m.
Yep.
If you include the fact that some of them specified food with cheese and bread, that gives greater evidence that it was food they were going to be providing. So,
Mhm.
and the fact that we have station in almost every sentence, and there is some variation to whether it's a train or a bus, they are all acknowledging it is a means of transportation, and train and bus are similar, but not quite the same. But I would lean towards it as a train station. So likely the original sentence was meet me at the train station at 8:30 a.m. with the food.
How confident are you in that?
Like 85 to 90% confident. The only
Why
thing
are
I
you
don't know
so confident?
because of
Go ahead.
the consistency of language throughout the options, that it's that the only thing I'm not like the most confident in is it meet me at the station, or is it meet at the station. I might be adding an extra word there because I don't have a total confidence in whether it's meet me, meet you, or meet at.
I think we
But
can be pretty confident it's me.
So let's count it.
6,
Me is
7,
13
8.
times. Me is 8 times.
8 times.
Right. At the together is 12. Remember, there's only 15 here.
Right.
So this is 13 out of 15, 8 out of 15. This is still a majority. 12 out of 15. Train is in 10 of them. Station is in 10 of them. At is in 14 of them. Very confident on that one. 8:30 a.m. is in 8 of them. With the is in 12 of them, although with is in the majority. And then food is in 8 of them. So this is the majority reading across every single word across all of these manuscripts. It's meet me at the train station at 8:30 a.m. with the food. That was my original sentence. So good job. A little golf clap for that. Yeah. We can do that. Now imagine if you didn't just have 15 manuscripts, but you had 1,000. How confident could you get on the wording of the sentence when this is the vast majority of variants that we have, where the overwhelming differences between every single translation or every single manuscript of the Bible that we have, the vast majority of the differences is in spelling, in missing letters. So like stadio down here, for example, or met instead of meet, and in grammar structure. That's the vast majority of the differences. Of the differences that are not those, it's less than 1%. And of those, there are around, I believe, 47 that we actually have difficulty with. Other than those, everything else we have firmly stated in the Bible based on this method of textual criticism. So the fact that we have thousands of manuscripts gives us way more confidence in what the original said, regardless of how complex the information is, because it's contextually driven. If I said the bus station in one of these, and then had the train and literally everything else, or the terminal, which is another word for a train station. Because this is, again, some of it, they would substitute words that were less common then and then more common now. Or like cheese and bread, those are types of food. That would still be something that you could like substitute. Like, hey, what if he was bringing specifically cheese and bread with him? The translator knew that, the scribe knew that, and he changed it from food to cheese to be more accurate. Even though that's a difference, it's a variant, they would do that from time to time. But we can still get back to what the original said based on the overwhelming testimony of the manuscripts we actually have. So, with that, we have a strong confidence. And it's not just the 5,000 Greek, it's like 25,000 manuscripts, because you can also do it across languages too. So we have 25,000 manuscripts we can use to get the Greek New Testament back from either translations in other languages or from Greek itself. And you also have the quotations from the church fathers. So you have tens of thousands of witnesses to what the original said for any specific verse. It's kind of amazing.
Well, and
So,
kind of what I said earlier, that like when we argue about the scrutiny of the the scrutiny of the copyists, like with the Old Testament, we had people who like their dedicated role within the Sanhedrin, and like their like whole deal was being a copyist.
right.
They are
That was the role.
meticulously copying down the Old Testament. That is not what's happening with the New Testament. Like I said earlier, these are letters being delivered to house churches that are under persecution and are consistently like they're having to just copy down as quick as they can, and they give the original back to the person who would take it on to the next church. And so, there would be room for some mistakes to be made because these are not professionals. These are just regular people copying it down and then handing it back. And you hope for the best, but obviously it's, there is a possibility for mistakes. Now, when we come in later with all of the texts that we have, as Chris has mentioned, that we have, 5,000 manuscripts and then 25,000 more like external manuscripts, we're able to reconstruct what it should have said. So it's
Quite
again,
easily.
but yeah, it's pretty insane how God can use two different means, right? That there was the means of an institution that was able to precisely copy down the scriptures, and then how using flawed individuals, when you just gave it into an abundance where you had so many of them, you can still recreate the correct and appropriate text by just the sheer amount of individuals who were doing the copying.
Right. And it's one thing to note from this, if you didn't notice, not a single one of these 15 actually have the original sentence intact.
I didn't think so.
Not a single one. And since there's 15 and only 12 words, this is more manuscripts than we have words, and there's also more variance between the manuscripts than there are words of the text. So this is similar to the setup we have for the New Testament for some passages, not for all passages. Some passages we have extreme clarity on that are like almost identical across most of the manuscripts. This is a decent example. And even then, even with there not being a single original manuscript that has the exact wording, even with there being more variants than words, because we have so many manuscripts here, we can actually get very high confidence. Now, if we had an extra 1,000, we'd get even higher confidence in what the original was, which is why there's different versions of the text we use to translate from the Bible. We have the critical text, which is going through textual criticism, going through the different translations, going through the different church father quotations, going through all of this stuff, and we can get one critically examined addition to the Bible. It's what the NIV, ESV, NASB, like all those are translated from that. You also have the majority text, where you get every single Greek word across all of the manuscripts, and you then translate you get the original text based on what the the majority was in each of those positions. So for every word of the Bible, you take the majority across all the manuscripts for that version of that sentence. The Majority Standard Bible is a new edition of the Bible in English that uses the majority text. I'm very excited about it. It's already available online on the Berean Study Bible's website for free. It's an open source text, and they're going to come out with printed editions soon. So if you're a bibliophile and you need a book in your hands to read it, it's going to come out soon, and it's super based. It's going to be different than all of the critical text editions. So it'd be good to have like an NIV plus the MSB plus like an NASB to then reflect from if you don't know the Greek. But the Greek itself, you can go through the critical text or the majority text or the Alexandrian text, which is just the early like Vaticanus, Sinaiticus, going through just the early codexes we have. There is a critical text where it's just the early ones and none of the later testimony. And that's also used for translation. You have a bunch of versions you can create for it, and then you translate based on what we have reconstructed in each of those versions. You can even use all three at the same time to make a Bible translation. That would be a ton of effort, but you could do it. And it would be very accurate to what the original said. So, based on that, we're confident.
So your Spice Boy decided to copy paste ChatGPT in your chat, which is funny because ChatGPT is known for using emojis, and that's exactly what he did. So Spicy Man, those were two different people. Jehoiada or Zechariah the son of Jehoiada the priest and Zechariah the son of Berechiah are two different people. So
yeah, this is the Bible. There's a lot of people who are named similar names in the Bible, but they're not the same person. If it's telling you who their parent is, it is implying individual persons.
Yeah, your AI hallucinated. That tends to happen. Especially because AI is programmed to tell you exactly what you want to hear. So it's it's gaslighting you constantly. Which is why you need to always
Chris, ask yourself, what book challenges its readers to prove it wrong? Why would a liar risk exposure like this?
No, Chris, do you not know that ChatGPT was inspired by Allah? ChatGPT, it could give a surah, okay?
Mm-hmm. Ironically, the people who challenged Muhammad on it were also executed by assassination under the orders of Muhammad. So I don't know if that test actually pans out. Yeah.
Also, there are plenty of books that have no
And he
contradictions
killed the apostates.
that are not divine.
I could write a book that has no contradiction.
Absolutely.
I could write a book
Math
the size
textbooks.
of even simpler than that. I could write a fictitious story the size of the Quran that has no contradictions. It would just be a linear tale.
Dude, do you know what's even better? Is that all of C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia have no contradictions between any of them. Therefore, they're divine.
He's posted that comment like
first
3 times.
That's fun. The Bible does not have contradictions. All of them have been dealt away with by Christians over the last 200 years. The Quran does, in fact, have contradictions. It has many of them. Now, there's also
that's not what we're talking about, though.
I know that's not what we're talking about, but there's a debate within the Muslim writings on if Allah means that it has no contradictions or if it has a bunch of contradictions. In the verse it says, if it wasn't from Allah, you would find many contradictions. Does that mean that it has some? Because there were contradictions that people realized, like, hey, that's a contradiction. They're like, well, what Allah meant was that it would have a bunch of them, and the Quran only has a few of them. Therefore, the Quran is still from Allah.
Yeah.
So, that's fun.
Okay.
Memorizing
people memorize your book, bro.
If I memorize all of Harry Potter, does that make Harry Potter real?
No. And people memorize the Hebrew Bible. They never talk about that. The Hebrew Bible was memorized For a very long
yeah.
time, it was done by route memorization, exactly like the Quran. And yet you still say the Bible was corrupted. You still say the Torah was corrupted.
Yeah.
So memorization isn't your solution, because Jews memorized the Bible, the Torah, in Hebrew, the whole Tanakh in Hebrew, until it was rewritten down in Hebrew
Yeah,
in
the
the
Tanakh.
Masoretics.
The Tanakh is also like 4 times bigger than your Quran too. So.
Correct. The New Testament's 3 times bigger. Yeah. The Quran's tiny. It's a tiny little book. That's why like you can get like pocket editions this big. Very small book compared to the
Hey,
Bible. The Bible
you
is
can get-
massive.
You can get crazy small pocket Bibles. Okay.
Yeah, you can. The
It's-
Gideons, bro.
That's like just the New Testament.
I've seen those little pocket ones where you gotta use like a magnifying glass to read them.
Oh, those ones. Well, it's New Testament and Psalms and Proverbs. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm still like half the Bible, if that.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, on the other hand, we have the Quran, which has very little confidence on. Uthman wrote his version in 650 to 656 AD, and then he burned all the remaining copies that disagreed with it. So there were already versions 20 years after Muhammad that disagreed with the version Muhammad had, and he burned them. Like, oh, well, that was divine providence to correct him. But it's, again, the argument for the Quran being an unreliable text comes from the fact that there was one man that had sole authority and control over it that could have done whatever to it, and there's no way that we can trust that it was original to Muhammad, especially when we have reports by Ibn Masud and others that the version Uthman came up with was different from the version that they had. How can you trust that? You can't. So we can have basically zero confidence that the Quran that we have now is directly from Muhammad, exactly as Muhammad revealed it, not only because of the changes that Ibn Masud and others testify to, but we also have the Aruf. And that in and of itself is just wild, that 6 out of the 7 are gone. The majority of the versions of the Quran that was revealed by Allah are now gone to history. 6 out of the 7, for sure, gone. They're not somehow magically coalesced back into just the Hafs. They're gone. The 10, 10 is really like 38 now, but or I think it's in the 50s. The 10 canonical qirats are just from one razm. That one razm is just one of the al-Huruf, supposedly, and the other 6 are gone. And the Qirat themselves disagree. There's times where it's Egypt versus Egypt 2, like he did it versus I did it, for something like I caused them to have faith versus he caused them to have faith. Like there's legit differences between the Qirat, like word differences that change the meaning of sentences and paragraphs. Very important differences. And then you also have the differences between the pre-Uthmanic text and the Uthmanic text, which we'll go through a bunch of examples of. Which I don't know if I want to do that now or after we go through the corrupted parts of the Bible. I think I might do the corrupted parts of the Bible.
Yeah,
first.
our Spice boyfriend seems to think that we think that there is a specific inspired manuscript of the Bible. Chris, do we believe that?
Yes, for the autograph.
Yes, the autograph.
Yes,
but if
every
you come
single
at
translation or every single copy of it, no. We don't believe the copies were magically preserved or miraculously preserved or any of that.
We don't believe that somehow magical power is imbued is somehow imbued upon the pages of copies
Right.
of the Bible, right? We
Right.
don't believe that.
Yeah.
Now, we do believe that the preservation of the Bible is miraculous insofar as it has been preserved and there's a lot.
Super well. Yeah.
I mean, there's just a ton of it. So I think that's kind of a miracle. But no, like, do you think the LXX is the Bible? Like,
No.
I don't no. That's not nobody has ever said that. Insofar as it agrees with the autograph, yes. But the text, like the physical thing itself, No.
Yeah, no translation of any of the books of the Bible are the original, and no copy of any of the texts of the Bible are perfectly preserved or inerrant. We don't believe in inerrancy for any of the Bible other than the original documents written by the prophets and the apostles themselves.
Right.
That's the only ones that are they're not preserved, but those are the only ones that were inspired and inerrant of the Bible.
In a
So when we talk
literal
about like
sense.
in a literal sense, when we talk about like corruptions of the Bible, those are all based on the copies, not on the original. And we have no text inside the Bible that says it will be perfectly preserved as the Quran does. The Quran is not perfectly preserved. So
Nope.
you have that problem where Allah said, I will preserve it. I myself will preserve it, and it hasn't been preserved. So either you need to reinterpret the Quran or the Quran's false. But if you need to reinterpret the Quran, then you're going against what Allah says. And he says, hey, if you take your scholars as lords beside Allah, that's shirk. So whenever you are reinterpreting the Quran in such a radical way, you're doing shirk by the Quran's own standard. So you're a mushrik. But
The
Yeah.
Quran is fully detailed and specific and sufficient.
Yeah, he's
we're gonna get
talking,
off
those are
topic.
the
We're gonna get off
two,
topic.
yeah. Those are the two verses that Buddy told him to read earlier.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't want to get on. I don't want to get on a rant.
Okay. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick, by the way. I'm playing.
The idea that the Quran is sufficient in all things is actually one of the great IP dilemmas, because it's not, because there's specifically verses about how it is vague and not detailed.
Dude, you have posted that same chat like 5 times now. Please spell memorizer correctly.
Spice Boy, we've already said memorizing something doesn't make it real or true. You can memorize a lie. That does not make it right. I can memorize Harry Potter, and that doesn't make it correct. So just because people have memorized it in your country doesn't mean it's right.
It's spelled with a Z.
Yeah, the Quran 12:1 says it's clear. It's ambiguous.
Um.
Oh man.
So, hey, Andrew, you remember when I asked Adam about the one quote from Umar about finding more verses, creating a new surah?
Yeah.
That does exist. And I knew it existed. And Chris and I both were like, yes, that exists. Where is it? Because Adam was like, no, I do not know. I'm like, yes, you do, bro.
Did you
I found
say did you say Umar, or I thought in that message you said Uthman?
Pretty sure I said Umar. I did say Uthman.
Yeah, you said Uthman.
Yeah, it was Umar. My fault. But I did find it. Let me know when we get to the part where we're talking about the Quran corruption stuff.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna put the I'll put the link in the chat for that quote. It's daif. The hadith is daif, but
doesn't matter.
if you look, if you look, I found a where's that? This other website. It says that the collection that this hadith is in is widely regarded as as one of the most authentic collections of hadith after the Kutubasta, whatever that is. So apparently it's fairly, authentic, sahih. So
Right. I mean, the science of isnad is garbage.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
It's bad.
As Asrkadi says. Also, again, it doesn't matter how many people memorize it. Memorization is the worst form of preservation.
Yeah.
It is by far the worst form. There's an old Chinese proverb of the weakest ink is better than the greatest memory. And it's true. Muhammad forgot parts of the Quran, which we'll go over in some hadith. Muhammad
Bro.
forgot parts. Several of his major reciters of the Quran forgot parts of it. It's not a good source. It really isn't, which is also why they wrote it down. Anyway. So let's go
Spice
through the
Boy.
parts.
I'm sorry, Spice Boy. Numbers 23:19 is literally saying God is not a man that he would, right? It's talking about his within his nature, not about he couldn't be in the form of a man. And the one I just really, Matthew 4:1, Jesus was tempted, and then James says that God cannot be tempted. Hey, go read the whole story. Did Jesus succumb to temptation? No. So you're right. God cannot be tempted. Satan tried to tempt Jesus, and it failed. So God cannot be tempted. Like, that's actually like a really, really bad argument.
Anyway. So God is not a liar. He's also not a Muslim.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Dude.
Well, he
Okay.
can't be a Muslim. God cannot submit to God. Proof.
Except
You
Allah
see?
prays.
But you
Who does
should-
Allah pray to? Who does he commit salat to?
But you know,
Well,
Andrew,
he can submit to Muhammad. That's okay. Allah can submit to Muhammad. That's okay. So,
As Aisha said.
God may
Yeah,
not
you're-
submit to God, but Spice Boy, you should go submit a job application somewhere for real.
He probably has one. In Pakistan. Doing something. I don't mean that as an insult, by the way. Love my Pakistani brothers. Okay. So there are 7,957 verses of the New Testament. Give or take 2. Based on the structuring that you have. How many of those nearly 8,000 verses of the New Testament, which is more than the Quran, how many of those do you think have been corrupted by these scholars' omission to a point that is not recoverable, that is not reconstructible?
None of them?
No, that's not true.
I would 5%.
No,
More?
less.
Okay.
I was going to say.
Like 2%.
Way less.
0.5%.
Close, yeah. 0.566.
Nice.
So 0.566% of the New Testament we are unsure of. 33 verses we know were added, and 45 verses we are uncertain of the original, if it should have been there or if it shouldn't have been there. So
sorry.
less.
For some reason, I thought we had moved on to the Quran. That's the only reason I even went with 5%.
Oh, no.
I misunderstood your argument. I thought we were at the Quran. My bad.
No.
I would have started with 0.5. Okay, sorry.
Okay, yeah. No, the Bible only has 33 verses that we know to be additions. It's the John 8 passage with the adulterous woman, which is actually testified by the church fathers and shows up in other locations within Luke, and I believe one location in Matthew. So it likely happened, but it was not original to that location within John. That's 13 verses there. You have the Johannine comma, where it adds in the Trinity explicitly. That's in 2 verses. It was likely a scribal note that got included into the text. We have the long ending of Mark, which there should have been an ending of Mark, and that might have been the ending of Mark, but we're not confident on if that was the original or not. That was 12 verses. You have Mark 7:16. You have John 5:3b through 4, Acts 8:37, Acts 24:7, Acts 28:29. Those are all of the verses of the Bible that should not be in it. 33 out of 7,957. And then you have 45 that we're not sure of. The wording, but we're either really confident that it should be there, or it shouldn't be there and it was inserted from another text. They're like copied things. For example, like Mark 9:44 and 9:46 is the exact same sentence as 9:48. They might actually go there and it was just repeated for emphasis a bunch of times, or it was just a problem of them inserting 48 back into 44 and 60 or 46 to make a point. So you have several of those, but that again, all of the passages, all the verses of the Greek New Testament that we know shouldn't be in there, or we're uncertain if it shouldn't be in there, is 0.566% of the text. So this is 99.4% confident on that we know exactly what the text said. 99.4% of the New Testament text we are very heavily confident on.
Right.
So this is not just some like flippy floppy wishy-washy thing. It's like, no, there, like every single Greek New Testament scholar, including Bar Ehrman, says that there is not a single change within any of the things we're uncertain of in the New Testament that would change any essential Christian doctrine. Not a single one. The closest you get to it is if you need to pray and fast to cast out a demon, or if you just need to pray. That is the closest thing you get to a textual change that matters.
Bart Ehrman is the greatest biblical scholar that we have. He knows the Bible so well.
Right.
Could you do something for me real quick? Could you go up to Mega Mushroom?
That dude, he's back.
No. This is a guy that I work with. He had this first comment. If you go just a little bit further up for him, hello, Master True. He said he was going to do this a while ago. He said, just wait, it's gonna happen.
Wait, what time did you post that?
It was 10:18.
10:18. Oh, hello, Master True.
Hello. Hello, Jacob. Go to bed. All right.
Okay. That's fine.
I saw it. I was like, you made it.
Yeah. Bar Ehrman. Bubba. Yeah.
So
Prophet Bar.
Yeah, Prophet Bar, bro. Prophet Ehrman.
Prophet Bar.
That's just
could he put together a surah as great as one of these?
So
I would debate Muhammad Hijab.
Why?
I debate Jake Bracatella.
This guy
all the time.
This guy Fazy49 claimed that we have 800 Greek manuscripts of the New Testament.
At what time period are you trying to give that at? Are you saying within the first 600 years? That's about accurate. Or the first, like, if you're saying up until the 1500s, whenever manuscripts ended, no, that's laughably wrong. Yeah.
We have
thousands. Anyway,
5,800 of them. We have 5,800 of them.
To be exact, it's 5,865.
Yeah.
But, that's just splitting hairs there. Anyway.
BJP.
I don't know what that is.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? So of all of the texts that we have, the only things that are like viable candidates for things that we're unsure of is like if the number of the beast is 616 or 666. And in Hebrew gematria, so the counting, it's basically like Roman numerals, but in Hebrew, Chiron Caesar or Neron Kaiser, so Nero Caesar, is either 666 or 616, depending on if you have Nero or Neron. So it could be either. And we have manuscripts that have both. So we're unsure of that, and we're unsure of some of the wording of some sentences, but it's like, it's such a tiny amount, it's crazy. And if you're talking about single words that we're unsure of the exact wording or spelling, there are around 1,400 to 2,000 words in the Greek New Testament that we are not 100% confident on of it. And none of those actually change the meaning. The vast majority of them are kind of benign. there are 1,400, no, 140,000 words in the Greek New Testament. So it's around 1% of the text are we unsure of in the exact wording itself. So 99.4% confident on the verses that should be included in the Bible, and then 99% confident on the exact words that should be in the Bible. This is an outrageous level of confidence in this giant text for the time period. Like, an entire Greek New Testament at that time would have cost millions of dollars to write. And yet we have a bunch of them, which is also why you were mentioning earlier, these were not professional scribes doing it. The vast majority of these that we have were like your average Joe just making a copy. Like, hey, I got a goat. I'm gonna go kill my goat, make it into a papyrus, and then write it down the best I can. So we have a bunch of those amateur scribes, which is actually one of the biggest differences between the Quran and the Bible, but it's not necessarily a good thing because of the centralized control of the Quran and its dissemination. Whenever we look at things that weren't directly controlled by the Quran, we see differences, such as the Sana palimpsests, which we'll go through in a little bit. But the Bible, we are very confident on over 99% of it. Very confident on it. So we're talking about like large scale corruption just not happening in the Bible. There's a few places where we're unsure of, and that's fine. None of what we're unsure of changes anything we believe as Christians. Not a single thing at all whatsoever. So we're talking about, oh, the Bible's been corrupted. It actually agreed with the Quran when it was first revealed. That's nonsense. No version of the Bible that we have and any of the manuscripts we have actually support the Quran in any way, shape, or form. And if you're doing this whataboutism of, oh, well, the Bible is only 99% preserved, it's not 100% preserved, it's only 99% preserved. The Quran's less than 100% preserved as well. It's less than 99% preserved, which we'll go through. Because there are at least 116 verses that we have very low confidence on in the Quran. If not a couple hundred, which we'll go through the Hadith for that case. If that's the case, 116 verses just from the Sana palimpsests, which we'll look at in a second, that equates to 1.86% of the Quran, because the Quran's a much smaller book. It's only 6,236 verses. Ayah. So the Quran, just from the Sana manuscripts, is already at 98% preserved. Just those. Then we go through the stuff with the breastfeeding, with all of that, and we see that the value is actually much lower. So let's go through the Hadith on that. We'll go through the Hadith and we'll go back to the Sana. But I've read a couple of these. It's pretty cool. There's a whole website, which I'll put in the chat now. If you want to go read for yourself. I'm actually going to pin it in the chat. So we'll go through one, then let's go through the Hadith, and we'll come back and we'll just go through these for a while. But there are major variant differences inside of the Quran for the pre-Uthmanic versus post-Uthmanic text. We actually have some...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
What does it say what the variant reading is from?
All these variant readings are from the Sana, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so the Hafs, because the Sana manuscript, it's the Hafs written over something more ancient, correct? Okay.
Right. So
it's not Warsh, it's not Kalun, it's something before that.
Yeah, it's so it's a palimpsest. And a palimpsest is a text that has a upper layer and a lower level.
Mm-hmm, yep.
The lower layer is what is going to be on this right side.
Right.
That is older, and that text itself is dated to around the time of Muhammad. So this is a very early variant reading that is likely pre-Uthmanic because the Razm is different, which you can visibly see. So like it's different. Right. It's a different Razm. So like from this point onward, that's an entirely different text. So there's a variant reading within Al-Fatiha, like even Al-Fatiha. For those watching, there's a single verse, I think it's Ayah 5 of Al-Fatiha, that has, I think it was like 38 variant readings in the manuscripts. So there's some words of the Quran that we have so many variant readings of. That's more variant readings than there are ayah in the surah that it contains, which is pretty funny. Yeah, it's the lower text. Anyway, so we read this. We have so this is the traditional hops that we have today. The path of those upon whom you have bestowed favor, not those who you've invoked your anger or those who lead astray. This is ayah 7 of Al-Fatiha. Or ayah 4? What? That sounds so much like ayah 7 to me. Am I brain tripping? Because the end of it is the curse on the Jews and Christians. Yeah, that is ayah 7. Why does it say ayah 4 there? Interesting. Anyway, this is a curse on Jews and Christians that people have been reciting for centuries now. Then we also have the path of those upon whom you have bestowed favor, not of those who have invoked anger, and the path of those whom you are not angry. Or it adds this clause of the path of those with whom you are not angry. So it adds this extra way statement on it to say, like, hey, lead us down the path in which you're not angry. And then it kind of drops one of these clauses. So it drops one of the clauses and then alters it with this additional new clause. And then it has a impact the difference between them. It's a pretty awesome website. I highly recommend it. It's pretty cool. And it has 116 of these. And you can sort it by high, medium, and low. And we're going to go through a bunch of them in a little bit. But what else? What?
No. I'm just this phasing guy
chat.
just keeps getting me. Yeah, continue, please. Your Quran commands that you have a caliphate and that you impose the jizya and that you subject the world. So my Bible doesn't command me to have a pope and to tithe. Well, that depends, but it doesn't command me to do these things. That yours does, and that's what Hussar is trying to get across. Not that, yeah, never mind. But anyways,
was he that dude that was putting quotes in on Monday? Hey, Faisy, were you on my stream on Monday? Or was it last week? Who was it? You guys on Wednesday last week with
like
the dude who was
himself.
quoting? Yeah, there was a guy in my comments that was quoting himself the entire time. Like every single post he made was a quotation, but he was just speaking in quotations. And it was so silly. It was so interesting. I just ignored it heavily, but yeah, that is. Yes, this is the point. We cannot trust the originals because of the burning, which I don't actually have pulled up. I don't have the burning hadiths pulled up, but it's in the Sahih al-Bukhari. It's one of the small numbers.
Here's your head, and here's what I said. Right there. That's where it went.
Yeah. So we have the 7 different aruf, as we mentioned earlier. Those are all gone. We only have one of them now, so the Quran is at least what's that percentage? What's 6/7? Like 86, 80. So what is that? 6 divided by 7. 85/7. So just about 86%. Look at that quick math. So about 86% of the Quran has been corrupted because all those aruf are gone. And the reason why aruf even exists in the first place is because Muhammad couldn't remember how he would recite things, and his reciters had different accounts of it, different versions of it. So he was like, yeah, Allah recited it in that way. Oh yeah, he did it that way too. Oh yeah, he did it that way too. All of them are based on how Allah recited it. Why? Why? What is going
That's
on?
Sahih narration.
Yeah, being inspired by your bride's child.
Wouldn't that just be your? Well, I mean, I guess it wouldn't have to be your kids.
Yeah. They're basically your daughter wife. Because you have to raise them.
Right.
You have to potty train them. Imagine having to potty train your wife.
That's
Dude.
disgusting. I don't. That's so bad.
I don't know if you.
That's so bad.
I don't know if you saw David's stream talking about Alex Jones.
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay, so apparently Alex was informed about Alzut. And
oh, I saw the thumbnail for that.
Yeah,
I saw that thumbnail. I haven't watched it either.
In the video, Alex Jones is like, all right, we got to pull this up. CNN did a little documentary here, and he literally just showed a video where CNN did a little segment of their news broadcast on how this 9-year-old girl was sold to this 70-year-old man.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, I saw that.
Awesome.
It was from like 4 years ago or something like that, and all the comments were like, CNN discovers Islam.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Alex Jones guy is during that segment, he was just like, Islamic culture is PDF file culture. I was like, yeah. I mean, hey.
The quotation for the interesting copy, man.
My man called him Fatsy. It's great.
Thanks, Jack, for the gifted membership. Also, Songs of Relief got it. I'm pretty happy.
Nice.
Super based chatter. Yeah. Anyway, so no, I saw I was watching the one with him cross-dressing, which I already knew about, but I didn't know how deep it went for the Arabic. I knew that it was supposed to be mantle, and mantle was essentially her nightie. I didn't realize it was specifically the mirt, and that it's like a green dress specifically, and that he might have, been relieving the tension of his caliphs. But anyway, Muhammad, the first bisexual prophet, cross-dressing bisexual prophet, cross-dressing bisexual pedophilic prophet. So we're gonna be very specific with this. Also hated dogs. He was a role model for our time. So I expect to see many more Muslims cross-dressing in public, wearing full burqas. So, and also green dresses. But anyway, we have here in Sahih Muslim 7888A or 788B, both of these. Aisha reported that Muhammad heard a person reciting the Quran at night. Upon this, he said, "May Allah show mercy to him. He has reminded me of such and such a verse, which I have missed in such and such a surah." Apparently, this was pretty common. He would go years between reciting certain surahs, and then he would insert ayah back into them, which is why whenever you look at the chronological lists of the Quran, pull up real quick. Whenever we look at this, every single one of them that you pull up has except these verses, except these verses, except these verses, except that one, except this one, except that one, except this one, except these 7, except that one, 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 except. It's like, oh wow, Muhammad did that a lot. He's like, oh well, I need to fix my previous theology because my theology has changed now that I'm in Medina. Oh no, what shall I do? Oh well, he just caused me to remember such and such a thing that I didn't actually recite up until now, which definitely doesn't mean that it was human-made invention and not directly from Allah. Because why would Allah need to constantly fix his own revelation years, decades, even sometimes after the fact? Instead, it's no. He just revealed to me in part because that's why.
Because that's why.
So, Sahih Muslim 788B. May Allah have mercy upon him. Be reminded me of the verse which I had been made to forget. And there's a couple others like this. So you have would forget verses. Muhammad would forget verses. So apparently memory is not that good as a memorization agent. Because it's not just Muhammad forgetting verses, it's also a bunch of people. a bunch of the dudes of the Sahaba that were trying to memorize the Quran, they died in the Battle of Yamama, which I don't think I've pulled up in this list of hadith. They died in that battle and they lost large sections of the Quran, which is why there's a hadith, I think attributed to either Abu Bakr or Umar, and it says, how can anyone say I have memorized all of the Quran?
That's
And
Umar.
much of it has been lost. It's Umar.
He says, let none of you say I've learned the whole of the Quran, for how does he know that what the whole of it is when much of it has disappeared? Let him rather say I have learned what remains.
Correct. So according to the earliest testimony of the Sahaba, which are the people you're supposed to trust, much of the Quran, hundreds of ayah even, are gone. So if it's even 100 ayah that are missing, that's already a higher percentage corrupted than the Bible. But if it's literal hundreds, at least 280, give or take some based on the counting of the different surahs which are mentioned to be shrunk or gone entirely, that would be several times more corrupted than the Bible. It's actually around like 94% preserved of the Quran if you trust the Uthmanic recession that we have today. If you don't trust Uthman's version, then it's actually much higher than that. It's closer to the 90% corruption. But then you have a low confidence on what remains of the Quran. So according to the earliest hadith we have, all these early sources say the Quran has been augmented, it has been altered, it has human processes involved in its creation, and there are many sections of it which are just gone. Now you can say, oh, it was just abrogated in recitation. It was abrogated by the sheep. It was abrogated by Allah. But that's still corruption of the text, because usually whenever abrogation happens in the Quran, it's still in the written form. You would just then claim abrogation later on, such as the sword verse, Surah 9:5. That verse, abrogating all of the peaceful verses of the Quran, is literal hundreds of verses that are abrogated by just that verse. All those verses are still in the Quran. I actually have a website going through all the abrogations, and with those abrogations, they're still available. Why is it that there's hundreds of ayah that were abrogated by them being omitted from the Quran when the vast majority of the 300 or so ayah that have been abrogated, depending on what scholar you ask and what definition of abrogation you have, because there's differences within the different scholarly groups and the schools of Sunni Islam. There are hundreds of abrogations that happen in the Quran. Why is it that those specific verses, over 100 of them, were abrogated by being removed, partly by a sheep eating them, which is hilarious to me, when the rest of them are still there, but just not authoritative anymore? And is that cope? Is your answer, is your belief in that cope to not break the Quran in Surah 15:9, where it says that Allah will protect it? Really ask yourself that. Anyway, thoughts on any of that?
It's 100% cope. When we were going through all that with Adam, that was like my biggest question was, this is supposed to be like the perfect preserved word of Allah, but yet there's a lot of abrogation. There's an unbelievable amount of abrogation in what's supposed to be the perfect preserved word. Like when the Bible has abrogation, in a sense, it comes hundreds to thousands of years after something was stated. It comes where there is a need for something to change. The Quran has abrogation seemingly day to day in what has been revealed to Muhammad. Very different.
There's abrogation within the same surah. I'm not even joking. I'm not kidding you.
That's cool.
There's abrogation within the same surah dozens of times.
Yeah, that's literally just cope.
It's amazing. And also, one important difference between the Bible and the Quran there, the Bible prophesied hundreds of years before it happened that there would be a change to the covenants and to the laws.
Right.
It's prophesied to be changed. the Quran abrogates seemingly based on whatever is going on in Muhammad's life at the time. Why?
One could say that the covenant and commandments changed with each dispensation, but that's only really hardcore dispensationalists who believe. I mean, nobody else believes that things like that would happen. I mean, whew.
All right, Chase, get off your box. That's not what this is.
I'm just
for.
saying,
Get outta here. Get outta here.
dispensationalism is much more logical than people would like to admit.
We need to do a stream on dispensationals versus covenantal
Covenant
theology. Because, yeah, even covenant theology, I feel like it gets a bad rap.
It does.
I think both are true. Ironically enough, I think both are true, just in very specific ways.
In a lot of
you have
videos,
to be
I've
very
seen,
careful how you define both of them in order for them both
I know.
to be true.
Yeah, I
in a
understand.
lot of videos I've watched.
I'm essentially like a covenantal dispensationalist. But
I actually kind of agree with Chris. I'm kind of in the same boat as Chris.
Yeah,
we
but
can talk
that
about that at another place.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's different.
okay, let's go. That's going to be a different stream. Anyway, Sahih Muslim 1050. This is pretty interesting. So we have. They came to them. So this is of the reciters of Basra. They came to him. They were 300 in number. They recited the Quran, and he said, "You are the best among the inhabitants of Basra, or Basra. For you are the reciters among them. So continue to recite it. But bear in mind that, and this is again in brackets, so it's not actually in the Arabic, that you're reciting for a long time may not harden your hearts as were hardened in the hearts of those before you. We used to recite a surah which resembled in length and severity to Surah Barata, which I believe is Surah 9. So this is what? That's one of the other names for Surah 9.
Yeah, it's another name.
It's like 86, I think. No, I was wrong. How many is it? 129. That's off. 129. So this is 129 ayah we're talking about. I have, however, forgotten it with the exception of this, which I remember out of it. If there were 2 valleys full of riches for the son of Adam, he would long for a 3rd valley, and nothing would fill the stomach of the son of Adam but dust. Is this in the Quran?
Nope.
And we used to recite a surah which resembled one of the surahs of the Musabihat. So the Surah 1, Surah 113, Surah 114, the prayer surahs. And I have forgotten it, but remember this much out of it. Oh, people who believe, why do you say that which you do not practice? And that is recorded in your necks as witness against you, and you would have been asked about it on the day of resurrection. These are in the Quran. But he's saying that there is 128 ayat he's forgotten, which was as severe, likely to the the mushrikun, as Surah 9. So we're already over 120 ayah forgotten according to this reciter, which is Sahih. This is Sahih narration. And since this isn't in the Quran anywhere, none of the other reciters knew about this surah. So this is already around 2% of the Quran has been forgotten based on just this hadith. That's more than the Bible with what has been taken out of the Bible with 33 verses. So just this by itself, not even getting to the goat eating yet, just this and just the goat eating separately, both of those separately is more corruption than what happened to the Bible.
I don't know if you have this.
Pretty crazy.
But there's a Shia hadith that says that the Quran originally had 17,000 verses.
I've seen that because of the number of miracles in it. But I don't have it.
It's weak. It's daif. Well, as far as Islamic hadith
but here's
science goes. But yeah,
daif doesn't mean wrong. It just means weak.
Yeah, it just means
it's
weak.
Still accepted.
Yeah, exactly.
There's hundreds of thousands of hadith that were unaccepted.
Yeah, that weren't recorded. Because
Right.
if they weren't accepted, why would you record it? And
Exactly.
so they didn't.
So every daif hadith still made the bar of being true.
Right.
It's lower on the bar, but it still made the bar. So Muslims like, oh, it's daif, it doesn't matter. That's not true.
No.
It was accepted by your scholars as something that probably happened. And even then, the science is terrible.
Yeah, your science is bad.
Sahih Muslim 1050. And then going to Sahih Muslim 1452a. Aisha reported that it had been revealed in the Holy Quran that 10 clear sucklings made the marriage unlawful. Then it was abrogated and substituted by 5 sucklings, and Allah's apostle died, and it was before that time in the Quran found and recited by the Muslims. So whenever he died, there was still 5 sucklings within the Quran. Pray tell, where in the Quran are there 5 sucklings of the breast to make a man mahram to the woman?
Up to this point, I have not found it.
I'm telling you, I've read the entire Quran. I didn't read that. I do not remember reading that. I would have remembered that. I did not read that. Is Aisha lying?
Yes. Because as we know, Aisha was very, okay. She was a child, so she exaggerated quite a bit.
But she gave these hadith when she was an old woman in her 30s.
That is pretty old.
Hey,
Grandma status.
Easy now. Easy
Right.
now.
Yeah.
Grandma.
So-
well, in Islam, man, grandma status, bro. You should have at least 3 generations by that time.
It's true. Yeah. You've at least gone, passed around by a couple hundred men.
Exactly.
So we have 10 sucklings that were abrogated, but were the 5 sucklings abrogated according to this? No.
Not according to that.
So the 5 sucklings should be in the Quran, but it's not. Why is it not? This is Sunan ibn Majah, 1944. This is Hassan, but again, doesn't matter. The verse of stoning and breastfeeding an adult 10 times was revealed, and the paper was with me under my pillow. When the messenger of Allah died, we were preoccupied with his death, and a tame sheep came in and ate it. So the 10 were abrogated. The 5 were not abrogated. The 5 that were not abrogated was destroyed by a tame sheep, and that's why it's not in the Quran. And Aisha didn't just add it back from her memory. They just omitted it. I wonder why. Maybe because Aisha didn't want a bunch of random dudes sucking on her boob.
Yeah. But now they use this, right?
Hmm?
Yeah, like there's fatwa
Stop it. Stop it right now. I need you to pull up what Faisy just put in the chat. I need you to put that up there.
I might die.
I cannot think of a more taken out of context scripture than this.
Dude, I still love the quotations. The quotations are so funny to me,
This
man.
is one of the dumbest things.
That's not
I've
how
ever
English
heard
works, by the
my
way.
whole
Fancy.
life.
This is not how English works. You don't have
That
to do
verse-
quotations if it's not a quotation.
Focus 5 for spiritual growth.
You see?
Without legal exceptions. Oh my god.
Dude, first of all,
That's
your
so funny.
fatwas are way worse than just breastfeeding grown men. But
Yes, yeah.
but
I
like
think it's funny.
you might go to the doctor, bro.
That's actually crazy. Oh my.
That's a good question, Faisy. And you have just
Good question. Good question.
You have-
a good game show.
that's a good answer,
Uh,
Steve. That's a dang
Good answer. Good answer.
Anyways, you have just inserted into my brain an image of Paul trying to suckle a believer
For spiritual growth.
for spiritual reasons. That's crazy. Oh,
It took a
what
bad
the-
time to drink water.
That was a terrible drink
gonna spit take
opportunity.
Ah.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was supposed to be a part of Surah 33. We get in another hadith that the length of Surah 33 originally was the same as a bakra, the cow, Surah
Mhm.
2. 286, 285 verses. Surah
No, you're not.
Surah 33 now is only like, I think, what, 76 or something like that. It's much shorter. It's under 100. It's either 70 or 80. 73. So over 200 ayah were removed from Surah 33 by a sheep. Again, like 200%, that would be around 3.5% of the Quran was removed by just a sheep. So you have the 2.5% from the sheep. You have a little over 1%, so a little closer to 2%, of the Basra's failed memory. You put those together, you're already about like 6% of the Quran. 5% of the Quran has been lost. Pretty amazing. What do you do with that? So, is the Quran more corrupted than the Bible? Already, yes, but we actually have more that we can point to. Sahih Bukhari, 5032, narrated Abdullah. The Prophet said, "It is a bad thing that some of you." Oh, I forgot the Prophet said, "It is a bad thing that some of you say, I have forgotten such and such a verse of the Quran, for indeed he has been caused by Allah to forget it, so you must keep on reciting the Quran, because it escapes from the hearts of men faster than camel do." Wait.
What?
Wait! I thought the Quran was easy to memorize, and that's one of the miracles of the Quran. But here we have Muhammad saying the Quran escapes from the hearts of men faster than camel do? First off, what is this? This expression.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I'm sure it's just some old Arabic expression. But wait. I thought the Quran was easy to memorize and recite. I've been told repeatedly for years that's the proof of the Quran. Why is it that Muhammad is here saying that it escapes from the minds and you need to recite it constantly to remember it? If it was easy to memorize and perfectly preserved by Allah.
I like that it says, "I have forgotten." Don't say you've forgotten. Say that you were caused to, because you can't forget it. You on your own power would not have been able to do it. You actually were
Right.
caused to do it.
Right.
Point for exhaustive determinism, but
Right, yeah, they don't believe in reason, and they don't believe in causality. So all things that occur, they're occasionalist. All things that occur only occur by the happenstance of Allah's will at that moment in time. So Allah caused the corruption of the Quran. Allah caused the tame sheep to eat it, to remove it, which is how the sheep is a prophet and it abrogates. Allah caused the people of Versailles to forget it. Allah caused Uthman's version to be different from Ibn Masud's and from the palimpsests that we have. Allah caused all these things, all these corruptions. Of course. And he also corrupted all of his other books, supposedly. So Allah can't be trusted with safeguarding his books, yet he says in his book that he's the one that safeguards it. How can we trust Allah? If Allah says he will safeguard his books, and he didn't safeguard the Torah, and he didn't safeguard the Injil, how can we trust him with the Quran? Especially when we have all these early reports that he didn't.
Oh,
yeah,
boys, I'm gonna take a quick bathroom break.
Okay. This is a similar recitation in Sahih Muslim 790a. What a wretched person is he amongst them who says, I have forgotten such and such a verse. He should instead of using that expression say, I have been made to forget it. Try to remember the Quran, for it is more apt to escape from man's minds than a hobbled camel.
Amen.
So again, the Quran's not easily memorized or remembered, and you have to constantly try to remember the Quran. It doesn't just come easy to you, unlike what Muslims tell me all the time. You have to constantly try at it. So that's pretty amazing.
According to
Have Sai
Spice
Muslim.
Boy, recitations may be abrogated, but rulings may still remain. What?
Oh, so I'm curious because there's a lot of fiqh. There's a lot of fiqh now
No, there's a lot.
throughout history of the sucklings, including like semi-modern suckling fiqh.
never
There's a
mind.
fiqh from Saudi Arabia and from Egypt. I think Egypt was in the mid 2000s and Saudi Arabia was in the mid 10s. That was talking about how because they started doing male and female workplaces for the first time, they needed to have all the men suckle from the women to make them mahram. Because they didn't want to have fornication in the workplace, and they didn't want the women to be forced to constantly be in the burqa while working. So they wanted to have the workplaces be mixed, and in order to accomplish that, they would have the men suckle from all the women. So you would have, all your male co-workers suckle from you, and then you would suckle from all the women in your office, 10 times. So it'd be thousands of sucklings overall. Yeah. Anyway. Good night, sir. Go to sleep. But yeah, do you believe that? What's your opinion on the sucklings and the fiqs for that? Anyway, Sally Muslim
Night, bro.
2363. Good night. If you were not to do it, it might be good for you. So they abandon this practice. This is on the report of grafting the trees. So if you were not to do it, it might be good for you. So they abandoned this practice. There was a decline in the yield. He happened to pass by them and said, "What has gone wrong with your trees?" They said, "You said so-and-so." Thereupon he said, "You have better knowledge in the affairs of the world." This is not at all.
That's pretty funny, though.
It is really funny.
What number is that? Muslim 2363.
Andrew sent that before the stream, so I had that pulled up.
2363. Muslim 2363. That is.
So they just don't trust Muhammad. It's really funny. That's an OSHA violation.
It's funny. It makes me laugh because I can imagine he's just going to try and buy like an orange, and it's like 50 cents more expensive than last year. He's like, "What the heck?" And they're like, "Well, dude, you told us to do this."
Oh, this guy can't be real. What's the chances? What's the over under on this dude being a troll or a bot? I can't say. I wouldn't say bot.
What's the ante? Yeah, I have no idea. You're worried about 3 points of contact on the lap.
50-50.
What is happening?
Yeah, I have no idea if he's a troll or not. This is the second or third time he's come on the stream. Strange dude. Okay, that doesn't solve the riddle of him quoting himself for every comment.
I know.
And the things his mind creates. I don't understand. Anyway. I've never read this hadith before. I have no idea why he included that other than Muhammad's just like, "Oh yeah, I guess you guys are right." Some of these I included because Andrew told me to, and we'll see how that goes. I didn't have for the backstory of the stream.
I have some hadith too. If you don't pull them up, I'll send them.
Sweet. For the backstory of the stream, I started working on it yesterday. Was sick, didn't want to do it then, so we're doing it now. Now Chase is sick, so it hasn't been a great day, great 2 days. And I was in a seminar all day, so I didn't have any time to pull up the hadiths I was winning. I know the hadiths, but I don't have the sources, so I can't just even if I'm reciting like the thing with Umar saying like all those things, like I don't have it in front of me to show you the source for you to then verify. So you just have to take my word for it. But Muslims are never going to take my word for it. Even whenever I show them the text, they don't take my word for it, which is crazy sometimes. Anyway, Sahih Bukhari 4992. This is a longer one. I heard Hisham ben Hakim reciting Surat al-Furqan. during the lifetime of Allah's Messenger, and I listened to his recitation and noticed that he recited in several different ways, which Allah's Messenger had not taught me. This is again the Al-Ruf Hadith. I was about to jump over him during his prayer, but I controlled my temper. When he had completed his prayer, I put his upper garment around his neck and seized him by it and said, "Who taught you the surah which I heard you reciting?" He replied, "Allah's Messenger taught it to me." I said, "You have told a lie, for Allah's Messenger has taught it to me in a different way from yours." So I dragged him to Allah's Messenger and said to Allah's Messenger, "I heard this person reciting Surat al-Furqan in a way which you haven't taught me." On that, Allah's apostle said, "Release him, O Umar, recite, O Hashim." Then he recited in the same way as I heard him reciting. Then Allah's Messenger said, "It was revealed in this way," and added, "Recite, O Umar." I recited as he had taught me. Allah's Messenger said, "It was revealed in this way. This Quran has been revealed to be recited in 7 different ways. So recite of it whichever way is easier for you." What?
Yay.
What?
Whichever way works.
Also, I feel like you just threw out the number 7, both because it's Semitically important, and he just wanted to like hedge his bets a bit. So whenever other people would also be like, "Hey, I heard it a different way," I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's just one of the 7s." Why don't we have all these 7s today?
Good question.
How is that not corruption?
Well, it's because of Uthman. You know, Uthman had to fix what went wrong.
Yeah, right. But he's not a prophet. How did he know how to do it perfectly?
When it was delivered, did Muhammad repeat it in 7 different dialects?
No.
Interesting.
He would sit on a tree, and the tree eventually spoke to him and said, "Hey, I wish your butt would caress me again." Only slightly paraphrasing.
Oh, I've seen a couple videos on YouTube about how y'all recite the Quran.
Yeah, I've heard the Tajweed. I've heard it. I didn't bother to. I haven't bothered to memorize the Tajweed myself for it, and I probably never will, unless it's like a very specific verse I want to use for arguments. I don't find it nearly as impressive as what others do. So Allah's Messenger heard when a man reciting the Quran at night and said, "May Allah bestow his mercy on him, as he has reminded me of such and such verses, of such and such surahs, which I was caused to forget." So in similar vein to the earlier ones, but why was he caused to forget it? And why did Allah use other people to remind him? How can the messenger, the one who is giving the Furqan, how is he able to forget these verses? Why would Allah do that? And you're like, "Oh, well, just Allah did it." But like, think about it. Just logically think through it for a minute. What reason would Allah have to cause Muhammad to forget the Quran? Any section of it. And these aren't abrogated, remind you. He's blessing him. Why? Because this is not an abrogated section. This is something that's not abrogated, that still has authority, still has value. And he's blessing him because he reminded him of such and such a thing. Why is it that Muhammad, logically speaking, why would God cause his final messenger, who was responsible for accurately delivering the Quran, which is what Surah 5 says? Surah 5 says if he did not accurately deliver all of it, then he failed to deliver any of it. If he is not perfectly able to deliver the Quran to the people, he has failed as a prophet according to the Quran. Why is it then that Allah caused him to forget any of the Quran which is not abrogated? Or even what's abrogated, because it's still the word of Allah, even if it no longer matters. Why is it not in the Quran? Yeah. Okay, he has to be a troll. He has to
I know.
be. So, oh, go. First off, it's not 400,000 variants; it's 500,000 variants. Excuse you.
Yeah, if you're gonna bully us, get it right.
Right, that's crazy. Okay, we've already gone over that in the stream. You can go back and watch it. Cyberquery 4987, and this is the one with Uthman writing it down. So, Al-Yaman came to Uthman at the time when the people of Sham and the people of Iraq were waging war to conquer Armenia and Azerbaijan. Hudhaifa. My brain was afraid of their people, the people of Sham and Iraq. Differences in the recitation of the Quran. So he said to Uthman, "O chief of the believers, save this nation before they differ about the book as the Jews and Christians did before." So there's already differences within 20 years in the lifetime of the Sahaba, with all of the reciters still alive, still reciting, still doing all these things, still memorizing the Quran. There's already enough differences for them to be terrified about the about the Quran being corrupted. So Uthman sent a message to Hafsa saying, "Send us the manuscripts of the Quran so that we may compile the Quranic materials in perfect copies and return the manuscripts to you." So apparently Hafsa has like an unaltered Quran copy somehow, which is different in other. That's not how this process worked in other hadith. So Hafsa sent it to Uthman. Uthman then ordered Zayd ibn Thabit, Abdullah bin Az-Zubair, Sayyid bin Al-As, and Abdur Rahman bin Harith bin Hashim to rewrite the manuscripts in perfect copies. Uthman said to the three Qurayshi men, "In case you disagree with Zayd ibn Thabit on any point in the Quran, then write it in the dialect of the Quraysh." The Quran was revealed in their tongue, so they did so, and when they had written many copies, Uthman ordered the original manuscripts to Hafsa, returned the original to Hafsa. Uthman sent to every Muslim province one copy of what they had copied in order that all other Quranic materials, whether written in fragmentary manuscripts or whole copies, be burnt.
Amen. If
This
only
was a
he'd
terrible
gone
idea.
one step further and burned all of them.
So close.
We were almost there.
Uthman almost saved everyone.
Yeah, we almost didn't have widespread child marriage in the Middle East.
Yeah. Or no, we still would have had that. Dog killings. Dog killings are Islamic.
Yeah.
Leather straps with the eye of the anus. That's one of the originals. The satanic verses are also original to Islam. So anyway, this is how the Quran was corrupted. This is why we can't trust
Mm.
any of it, because Uthman destroyed all evidence of what could be textual variants. There's still textual variants within the Uthmanic recession. There just is. All the Muslims who are coping that there isn't, it's just not true. You can look at the manuscripts we have. There are variants within them. It's not even talking about the Qur'an. Like within just one version of a Qur'an, there are differences between the manuscripts of the Hafs. There just are. So, going through, this is a really long one. Wow, this is a really long one. Oof, what is this one? 6830?
This is about the Battle of Yamama.
I'm assuming it is, but the Yamama Hadith is not this long. At least the one that I typically read from.
By Allah, my recitation is different than whatever this is.
Whew. All right, I might not read this one. This is... Brother, so many. I wonder if I could just do this. Just like
Spark note it.
Just spark note it from AI. It's a long narration. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, thank you. We could tell.
It's the stoning punishment verse.
Yeah, but there's got to be a reason it's in here.
Is that one of the ones I sent?
No, this is one of the ones I got.
Oh, okay.
So, Allah sent Muhammad with the truth and revealed the holy book to him, and among what Allah revealed was the verse of the stoning of the married who commits illegal sexual intercourse, and we did recite this verse and understood and memorized it. Allah's messenger did carry out the punishment of stoning, and so did we after him. I'm afraid that after a long time has passed, somebody will say, by Allah, we do not find the verse of the stoning in Allah's book, and thus they will go astray by leaving an obligation on which Allah has revealed, and the punishment of the rajam is to be inflicted to any married person who commits illegal sexual intercourse. Because this, again, is a very specific term in Arabic. It is not necessarily adultery. It's actually wider than that, which is also why, like, technically, rape is not a part of this category, which is why rape is, like, kind of halal, but it just depends on the context. That's its own thing. If the required evidence is available or there's conception of confession, then we used to recite among the verses in Allah's book, "O people, do not claim to be of the offspring of other than your fathers, as if disbelief on your part that you claim to be the offspring of other than your real father." And Allah's messenger said, "Do not praise me excessively as Jesus, son of Mary, is praised, but call me Allah's slave and his apostles." I have been informed that a speaker amongst you says, by Allah, if Umar should die, I will give the pledge of allegiance to such and such person. One should not deceive oneself by saying that the pledge of allegiance given to Abu Bakr was given suddenly and it was successful. No doubt it was like that, by Allah saved the people from its evil, and there is none among you who has qualities of Abu Bakr. And then it keeps going. So you can read this whole one yourself. Sahih Bukhari 6830. And it is a good long one. But it does include that this verse was in the Quran, and it is still binding on the Muslims now. This should still be how Muslim societies kill fornicators or adulterers. And I think they still do. It has been abolished globally. Iran is the only nation that has carried out in stoning. Afghanistan, Brunei, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Somalia, and Sudan. Yeah. I knew Iran did, but I thought it was more than that. But it's just all of the countries that are deeply Islamic that do it. I'm surprised Pakistan's not on this list, to be honest. I would think that Pakistan would do this type of thing, but I guess they don't. Anyway, this is something that's binding. This is also something that was supposedly part of Surah 33. That's now gone. So, Quran has been corrupted. Jami al-Tirmidhi, 1431. The Messenger of Allah stoned, Abu Bakr stoned, and I stoned. If I didn't dislike that, I add to the book of Allah, I would have written it in the Mushaf, for I fear that there will come a people that will not find it in the book of Allah, so they will disbelieve in it. This is again Umar saying this. So we have Umar multiple times, Sahih, saying that this should be in the Quran, that we still practice it, and that people will still do it. And then it's not in the Quran. It's been corrupted. Yeah, no, Muslims have just completely ignored reality a lot of the time. They don't read the text themselves. Isaac Wayman, keep up the good work. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it.
Does
helping
anyone actually
me fund an editor?
Does anyone actually hold to the? So I can't remember what we learned with Adam on this. The whole, like, the 17,000 verses, like, that there are
No,
or
yeah,
there's like 11,000 missing.
So that's a Shia hadith.
I know you mentioned that earlier. I just didn't know if anybody actually, because obviously,
No,
if that were the
they
case, how
don't.
do you get out of legitimate corruption and complete loss of? Anyways,
But there are some who would say that don't try and get around it by just saying it's daif. What they would say is that, well, there were 17,000 revelations, but not all of them went into the Quran. So like,
of course,
like how Paul wrote at least 2 other letters that we don't have in the Bible.
Yeah,
right.
Kind of the same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Didn't Umar add the burqa? Yes, because he wanted to
he
get
did.
off on the women pooping. I'm pretty sure I've told this story on stream a couple times, but I can tell it again if you guys want. Umar liked to watch women poop and pee. And there's one day where he followed, I believe it was Khadija, out into the pooping area. And then whenever she got back, he went up to her and said, "I saw you."
Crazy.
And then immediately after that, Muhammad revealed the verse on the burqa. So Umar, he is very prideful that he said, "My Lord agreed with me in 3 things." One of those 3 things was the burqa, because he wanted to be able to watch the women still poop, but not know who it was. So the problem was not the watching of the pooping, because he still did that. It was he didn't want to know that who he was getting off to was one of the wives of Muhammad. So they covered their women so he could still get off to them, but he didn't know which woman it was.
Wild.
As long as I don't know if it's Aisha, it doesn't matter. As long as I don't know if it's Khadija, it doesn't matter. As long as I don't know it's Zainab, like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Anyway.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Very funny, though.
It's interesting, yeah. So this is Ahmed 1715. Such and such came with these 2 verses from the end of Bara'ah, Surah Al-Tahab, which I believe is Surah 9. There has certainly come to you a message from among yourselves. To Umar, Umar asked, "Who is with you on this matter?" Al-Harith replied, "I do not know by a God, except that I bear witness I heard it from the messenger of God and learned it and memorized it." Umar said, "I bear witness that I have heard it from the messenger of God." Then he said, "If it were 3 verses, I would have made it a separate surah. Look for a surah of the Quran and place it in it." So I placed them at the end of Surah 9. That's a human effort after the time of Muhammad to alter the Quran before the Uthmanic recession.
Yeah,
how is this not corruption?
Yeah,
very much corruption.
And we know this happened because whenever you examine the text in the Arabic, for example, Dr. Sami Al-Dib wrote a book called The Linguistic Errors in the Quran. This one is in French. I think I also have the Arabic as well. Is this it? Yeah. So this is the... Oh, no, that's the Arabic one as well. Oh, that's my translation of the French. He goes through all of it in the Arabic, which I don't actually see in front of me right at this time, which is kind of weird. Wait, is this one? No, that's the Rodwell Quran. I have so many Qurans stored. This is Sam Al-Dib's Quran in English. He has this in Arabic as well. And for you Arabic speakers, I would find this document, the errors in the Quran, the linguistic errors of the Quran by Dr. Sami Al-Dib. It is a 500-page book. And in the first 250 pages, he lists out every single linguistic and grammatical error of the Quran in Arabic. He enumerates over 2,500 errors of the Quran in Arabic. He's a Palestinian scholar who's written 52 or 42 books on the Quran and on Sharia in Arabic and in French, in German, English, Italian, and I think Latin. Like, very prolific author. He's still alive. I've actually been on his stream. Very interesting fellow. He holds some beliefs on Israel that I'm not, I don't believe in. I don't accept. But he's also
believer?
Palestinian. He says he's a believer in Christ. Yes.
Okay.
So I hope he will be saved. He's interesting dude. Very, very interesting opinion. But he did compare Trump to Hitler on stream with me. It's
Nice.
an interesting time. But I gave the gospel to a bunch of his French and Arabic viewers. They were even saying in Arabic in the chat of, "Shut up, Sammy. We listen to you talk all the time. We want to hear your guest." It's like, that's cute. Anyway, legit scholar, crazy number of books. He is a professor emeritus at I believe the University of Paris. Like, very legit scholar. He enumerated in Arabic, and it's gonna be in our Quran translation in the footnotes, but over 2,500 errors of the Arabic itself, including in that is Surah 96, the first one chronologically. At about, I think, verse 9 onward, there's editing, and then it goes back. So these ayah here were inserted after the fact. It breaks the flow of the original paragraph, and we can find things like this of insertions into the text that clearly were not original to the text. We see that a lot in the Quran, and we have multiple scholars that are enumerating lists of such problems, of such errors. So we have all of this information available to us, and all of it's for free. I'm trying to compile it all into one book that you can then read yourself. Christian apologetic is not a scholar. He's not an apologetic, or no, he's not an apologist. Just go look him up. Like, dude is Sami al-Deeb. This dude right there. One of the foremost scholars on Sharia in the world, and the author of a stupid number of books. He's very, very old dude. Cool dude. Definitely not a Christian apologist. Actually, if you go watch the stream I did with him on his YouTube channel, during the interview, he asked me what a Christian apologist was. So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah, these are all his publications.
Oh my goodness. That is a ridiculous amount of books.
He has 42 books, mostly in French and Arabic. Yeah, prolific author. I have a number of these myself. I need to translate a couple of them, but Samuel Deeb, Linguistic Errors of the Quran. This is his book. It's also free on his website. If you want to find every single problem of the Quran in Arabic, you have to know Arabic. This is a source. It's the Linguistic Errors in the Holy Quran, the Arabic edition. His website also has this stuff available to you. You can download it. They're all for free. And it's pretty awesome. That's the chronological Quran. That's the abrogation list. That's the French version. And then he has the Arabic version somewhere down in his... It's one of these. He has all these Arabic books as well. If you want to legitimately test your faith as a Muslim, I highly recommend this work. It's free. You don't have to pay $45. It's free. It's 500 pages. And the first half of the book is just about the errors of the Quran. The last half of it is a exegete. It's a commentary of the Quran. So it's both his commentary and also all the problems he's found within the Quran. Really cool dude. has some very strange opinions on things, but you know, we're all perfect. Anyway, what percentage of Muslims know Arabic? Very little. The vast majority of Muslims are not Arabs. They're all like Asians and Africans. So very little of them actually know Arabic. And of the ones that can recite the Quran in Arabic, they still don't know what they're reciting. Which is why a lot of Muslims who then read it in their own language for the first time leave Islam. It's crazy. Anyway.
It's because they have the essentially the burning in the bosom. It's the you recite it in you learn phonetic Arabic, so you were able to recite it in Arabic, but you don't actually know what that means. Like you can say it, but you don't know what it means. It would be like if I, the word baño in Spanish, but I didn't know what it meant. I just said it all the time. That's what a lot of Muslims do, is they don't actually know the words. They just know the phonetic Arabic. And then Wes Huff has a story on one of his videos where he's like, him and a Muslim friend were reading, and they would recite the Quran, and Wes asked him like what that meant, and he goes, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. So I hope to learn Arabic one day to know. He goes, you just read it to me. He's like, I know it phonetically. I know what it means for me. I know what it makes me feel like, it just feels so good. That it's very similar to like Mormon ideology of like, well, how does the Book of Mormon make you feel? Like,
yeah, it is.
Who cares? Yes, like if you listen to a high mass in Latin, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I mean, I'm not trying to compare the mass to whatever, but like that's
no, absolutely not.
But similar ideology. The difference is you can actually go look and read what they're saying.
Wait. Okay, Spice. What do you mean by this question? Are you asking for like the definition of what a translation is? Because you're not a native English speaker and you legitimately you don't know, or did you word your question weirdly? Like what translation of the Latin, or like what translation of the Quran? Like, what do you mean by this comment, my brother? I'm Indian, but I know Arabic. Okay.
That did not answer our question.
Well, it's probably not to my question.
Oh.
Because there's like a 35-second delay. I pulled it up a bit after he posted it.
What is a debate?
What is a debate?
What is truth? What do you mean when you say Jesus is God? Anyway.
But that's a good question.
Okay, no. It was narrated by Abdullah, the son of Imam Ahmed, and there and here and there and here and here and here and here and here, who he said, how long is Surat al-Ahzab when you read it? Or how many verses do you think it is? I said him 73 verses. He said only there was a time when it was as long as Surah al-Baqarah when we read it. The old man and the old woman, if they commit zina, then stone them both. A punishment from Allah, and Allah is Almighty, most wise. So this is Hassan. It's also quoted in Ibn Kathir. And inside of Ibn Kathir, we get a corroborating story from Ubayy ibn Ka'b, who said, how many verses do you recite in Surah al-Ahzab? He said 70 odd verses. He said, recite it in the messenger with the messenger of Allah, like al-Baqarah, or more than that, and verily the verse of stoning was in it. So we have a bunch of narrators on this, both in Sahih Muslim, in Al-Tamari, in Ibn Kathir, and in Ahmed, like so many sources for Surah 33 being as long as Surah Baqarah and then being gone. So at least 200 ayah of the Quran gone, which automatically, that by itself, makes it more corrupted than the New Testament, than the Greek New Testament. Already more corrupted than it. Even discounting the Aruf, even discounting the problems with Uthman burning them, even discounting all of that, just that alone would show that it's more corrupted, especially when at least some of it was still authoritative, being that all of the original caliphs used its teaching of stoning. Pretty amazing. Then we have all these in the palimpsests of differences between the Hafs and the pre-Uthmanic text. So
There are actually quite a few Muslims in India.
oh yeah,
I don't know why you would say that.
who said what? Oh, there are no
Sorry.
Muslims in India. Oh, that's just not true at all. Especially like the northeast and northwest of
Yeah.
India.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They actively want to take over India. That's for sure.
They tried repeatedly.
tried.
throughout
And they
history.
continue to.
Yeah.
And they continue to try and ally themselves with Pakistan. They commit terrorist attacks like all the time. I don't know if you guys saw the one last year, but that like that vacation spot where they just opened fire
I did
on
not
all those
see that.
people. Yeah, it was bad.
That's
Mm.
that's crazy.
What is the Talmud? And he said, still the best intro in the game. I appreciate it, brother.
What is Islam?
It's gonna be a stupid amount of time to make that intro. Anyway, so we have in Al-Baqarah 2, we have a difference between the readings, the revelation of the book versus this is the book. That's a pretty big difference. Those are word differences, sense difference. We have in 287, and we followed in his traces with messengers, and we sent after him Jesus messengers. This is just for context. We sent after him messengers instead of, and we followed in his traces with messengers. Well, this is Allah speaking. Why is Allah following something? What?
No.
Because here is, and we sent after him messengers, which I don't even think is true. Well, I guess no, they do believe that Paul and all of them were Rasul, but you know, we also have a hadith that says that there is no prophet from Jesus to Muhammad. So I think there's contradictions
Well,
there.
you see, he says messengers.
Does say
prophets.
messengers.
I like the one, the meme where it's like, you guys seen Avatar, right?
Yeah.
The Last Airbender.
Oh yeah.
And
Currently having my son watch it.
there's a episode where they're fighting Princess what's her face? Azula. And Sokka throws the boomerang and hits her in the head with his boomerang. And I saw a YouTube video that had a comment. It was like, you know, boomerangs were invented to break the necks of kangaroos. And the guy replied and he said, but you see, Azula's not a kangaroo. That's just what that made me think of. Like, yeah, but it doesn't say, it says messenger.
Yeah. Also, Faizi, my brother, Pakistani, because he was founded. Those were Pakistanis in India, not Indians. They were Muslims,
but they are in
that's
India.
still, like Pakistanis and Indians are very closely related genetically because they were conquered and bred hundreds of years ago, pretty brutally. Like one of the worst massacres in human history happened in India by Muslims repeatedly. They killed tens of millions of people. Terrible genocide.
What does this quote even mean?
Well, he's quoting himself. So Pakistanis in India, the only thing crossing the border faster than people is your logic.
Crossing that border.
Right.
The border between Pakistan and India.
Yeah.
My logic is crossing that border. Phenomenal.
That is.
And both are getting stopped for inspection. Like that last part. What?
Oh yeah, mate. Oh yeah. Anyway, so we have
They're out in droves tonight.
yeah. And take the station of Abraham as a place of prayer, and they took the station of Abraham as a place of prayer. Again, pretty different.
Yeah.
And complete the Hajj and Umrah for Allah, and complete the Hajj and Umrah for the house, the Kaaba. That's a pretty big difference. So now you're doing it for the house versus for Allah.
Mm.
This is one of the only Hajj commands in the Quran. In Al-Baqarah. So, they ask you about wine and gambling, say, in them is great sin and some benefit for people, but their sin is greater than their benefit. That's gone. Just maybe you should be drinking.
Omitted.
Straight up gone. Maybe you should be drinking. There's only 4 verses in the Quran. 2 of them are positive and 2 of them are negative. Here's one of the negative verses. Gone. Maybe you should be drinking. Guard strictly the prayers in the middle prayer. Guard strictly the prayers in the middle prayer and the afternoon prayer. Huh. Why is there 3 here? Because in the Quran, there's only 3 prayers. Why? Because the Talmud only has 3 prayers. But here we have 3 prayers. So, how many prayers do you have in Islam? Well, according to the pre-Uthmanic text, 3. And according to one of the surahs, 3. But that's, its own thing. Those who consume interest cannot stand on the day of resurrection except as one stands who has been beaten by Satan into insanity. Those who consume interest cannot stand on the day of resurrection. So they just add this whole extra clause in the Uthmanic version.
That sounds like note taking. Because I know that's what the upper text is.
Mm-hmm. Well, the upper text is Hafs.
Is Hafs, but yeah, I don't know. It sounds like he heard a really good sermon on that verse, and he was like, and the Imam said that they won't stand, they will only stand like Satan's beating them to insanity.
Yeah. Also, okay, Spice Boy. You've asked this question like 10 times in chat tonight. I've just ignored it because it's been answered so many times. There's 2 different instances where this happens in the Bible. One of them says no one knows the answer, or no one knows the hour, only the Father. And he's alluding to a wedding feast, which was the custom at the time. It was contextual. So according to the custom, only the Father would know when to pronounce the groom is coming. But the groom still knows what day he's going. So again, that doesn't actually track. And then in Acts, after the resurrection and after he's glorified, he says it's not for you to know. Not that he doesn't know, but that it's not for you to know. So in Acts, like Jesus likely knows. So it may have been that he didn't know whenever he was not glorified physically, and then he knew after he was glorified physically, or he always knew, and he used in Matthew a framework of, this is a wedding feast. I'm using your customs, our customs, to teach you about what's going to happen, because it's the bride, the church, coming to Christ. He's coming for his bride. So that's been explained a bunch of times, a bunch of ways by a bunch of people. You don't have to keep repeating things that are false. So.
Yeah, it makes me sad because we've given him some real answers to some of these that he's posted, and he just ignores them and just keeps going on.
Yeah. Anyway,
Taqiyya is not a Shia concept, first of all. That's just an Islamic concept.
Yeah, also Taqiyya is very specific. There's other doctrines online.
Maybe you're doing it right now.
I almost said that. I was like, are you doing it right now?
Maybe
trying to get out of it?
Yeah, trying to get out of it.
one of the doctrines of lying inside of Islam is knowingly omitting the truth and wording your sentences in a way that is a lie, but not directly a lie. So if I were to ask you, hey, do you have $5 for me to use? And you said, no, actually, wait. It's a different option. If I were to be like, hey, can I borrow $20 from you? And you said, I don't even have a dime. I don't have a dime in my pocket. What would you get the sense of from that sentence?
You're not gonna. You broke.
I'm broke.
I'm broke. But he actually has a $20 bill in his pocket.
He doesn't.
But he's not
wanna give
lying.
me $20.
He is not technically lying directly because he said, I don't have a dime in my pocket. He has a $20 bill, but he doesn't have a dime. So it's not technically lying. And that's actually one of the forms of lying you can do halal in Islam. So they have a bunch of different versions of lying inside of Islam. It's not just all taqiyya. I think the non-Muslims have gotten that wrong, unfortunately. And we should probably just learn, like, even myself, I'm guilty of it. I don't remember. I went through this recently. Raymond Ibrahim has a couple of videos on the topic, and it's really good quality. So you can go watch those. But I still don't remember. It's very close to taqiyya, but it has an M at the beginning of it, and I don't remember the word. So I can't tell you the word. But
Taqiyya.
Yeah. Taqiyya.
Instead of al-taqiyya, it's mul-taqiyya.
Yes. I'm going to pull it up real quick. It's not
Mudrat.
just taqiyya. I think it is Murana or Murna. And there's also, it's Tarira. That's what it is. It's this one. So this is the one I was thinking of there. You are intentionally misleading on purpose. So Tarira is the one of intentionally. So if I were to say, I don't even have a dime in my pocket, that's what this is. So taqiyya is only specific in persecution, and it is typically Shia, but Sunnis also do have this in their thing. These other ones are both. So they could still be lying to you, just not based on taqiyya, based on Tariya or Kitman or Tasir or Durara or Murna or any of this stuff. Like even this one is very common. Like, wow, is this one common? So you're specifically permitted to lie to restore a relationship between people. If I'm cheating on my wife all the time and I want her to not be angry at me, I can say, hey, wife, I've never cheated on you. That's a lie, but it's halal because it restores the relationship. So, yeah. Yeah, we need to learn the actual doctrines and beliefs and practices of lying, because it's not just taqiyya. We are misattributing this name for all these other ones that they do. And I need to get better at memorizing these as well. But anyway. Yeah, honestly, dude, like Surfity 532 is the best example of Kitman. Yeah. This one, honestly, it is. Where it's just knowingly withholding the truth. Especially because it says it as if, it's what we believe. And then immediately after that, it contradicts and it's like, oh no, you got to kill them all. The peaceful stuff was just for the Jews, not for us. So we can go through a couple more of these and I'll let people. You sharing your screen? Oh, with the yeah.
So we got Ibn Abbas here in Bukhari 5005. Says Umar said, Ubay was the best of us in the recitation of the Quran, yet we leave some of what he recites. Ubay says, I have taken it from the mouth of Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I will not leave it for anything. But Allah said, none of our revelations do we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, but we substitute it with something better or similar. So they just kind of left it out. Like it wasn't forgotten or abrogated. They just didn't recite it. For fun, I guess. I don't know.
Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thunder just sounded like it. Did you hear that on my mic?
But
I think actually yes. I think I did just hear. I heard like it's not like a ruffling.
Yeah, that was thunder.
Oh,
Okay, my power goes out. That's what happens. I'm in a thunderstorm currently. So if you hear any booms, it's not Allah trying to smite me. Unless lightning strikes me, that'd be interesting.
one heck of a stream.
Absolutely, showing all the corruption of the Quran and then getting smite by it. Pretty cool. What a way to go out. Anyway, yeah. What else you got?
no, that was the one. You kind of covered all of the other ones. But I have well, I have just some other random Quran knowledge in my notes here that I got from in a stream we did with Adam. So we have give me a second here. Well, first of all, Ibn Masud refused to burn his Quran. It'd be great if we still had his, but we don't. It's quoted Abu Bakr al-Assam is quoted saying they did not consider Surah 1 to be part of the Quran. Oh yeah, Surah 1 was not included in Ibn Masud's Codex of the Quran, which we have in his sayings. We don't have what it actually was, but we do have him recorded saying that he did not include Al-Fatiha. Oh yeah, I love this quote. Ibn Masud said, "There is no verse in the book of Allah that I do not know where it was revealed and why it was revealed. And if I knew any more or anyone more learned in the book of Allah and I could be conveyed there, I would set out to him." That was in Ibn Abi Dawood, Kitab al-Masahif. Oh yeah. I also think it's funny that they supposedly get their Quran from Zayd ibn Thabit, but Ibn Masud said, "I recited from the Messenger of Allah 70 surahs, which I had perfected before Zayd ibn Thabit had embraced Islam." So Buddy's just like, dude, I had over half the Quran memorized before you even before Muhammad even knew you, bro.
Damn.
He said, I acquired directly from the Messenger of Allah 70 surahs when Zayd was still a childish youth. Must I now forsake what I acquired directly from the Messenger of Allah? It omitted Surah 1 and then Surahs 113 and 114, which are the prayer surahs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. His Quran also contained a variant of Surah 591, which says to fast 3 successive days instead of just 3 days. Oh yeah, I don't know if you go over this, but Zayd also differed from Ubay and Masud. So Ubay ibn Ka'b and Ibn Masud in Surah 33:6, which states, "The Prophet is more worthy of the believers than themselves, and his wives are their mothers." But the companions, Masud and Ubay, add, and he is their father to the end. So I don't know if you had that in your notes, but
No, I didn't.
yeah, they added that Muhammad is their father. Ubay bin Ka'b also included 2 extra surahs that are not in Zayd or Masud's Qurans. Yeah. Anyways.
So we have another 80 or so verses that are different between the Uthmanic and the non-Uthmanic versions that we have. That we are probably not going to read tonight because we're already about at 3 hours, and I still have some other things I want to bring up. So go through that real quick, then we'll probably call it a night. The transmission method of the Bible and the Quran matters significantly for this conversation, and also the dating of the manuscripts themselves matter. And I want to go a little bit through the motivation of the changes to the Bible from the Islamic paradigm, not from like an atheistic scholarly perspective, but from the Muslim paradigm. How could these texts be changed? So we're going to go through that. As far as the transmission method of the Quran and the Bible goes, the Bible was instantly disseminated among hundreds and thousands of people that went to dozens of different cities and provinces that all had their own personal copies and church copies funded by rich people in all these different lands. So very early on, we had copies in Egypt, we had copies in Yemen, we had copies in West Africa, we had copies in the Levant, we had copies in Turkey, we had copies in Italy, we had copies in Greece, we had copies in the Western European countries as well, so like the Germanics. We had copies all over the place within 100 to 200 years of the Bible being disseminated. So if there's any change, this is important when it comes to finding textual corruption. Any change that happened in Egypt did not affect the manuscripts we have from the Levant or from Turkey or from China. If we have any, I don't actually know if we have any in China. But like these manuscripts we have all over the planet, not a single change is found in all of them. It's usually like these specific places, usually Alexandria is where we find the most differences from the early manuscripts because we have a bunch from there, which makes sense because it is like humid, or not humid, it's arid, dry, same thing, and able to preserve text better. So most of our earliest texts come from either Egypt or the Levant, so Jordan, Syria, Israel, or Egypt, like that whole section is where manuscripts are preserved the best for the longest period of time, including Arabia. All of our early Alexandrian texts are not changed in the same way that other texts in Africa are changed, or other texts in the European countries are changed, or Greece or Turkey. Like those changes we can spot in history, and then that's how we're so confident in our reconstruction we have now. We know like, oh, that change there was done by this little sect of people, and we can trace it back into where it didn't happen in their manuscript tradition. So we can see, oh, well, at some point in like the 500s, a change happened in this community and it was preserved and then propagated outward. We can see that with a lot of these different changes. Like the Johannine comma, for example, didn't come about until hundreds of years later. And we can find where it came about, and it just so happens to be that the Textus Receptus, which is what was used for the King James Version, which only, I believe, had 8 Greek manuscripts, they included it because their versions had it. We have thousands of more manuscripts now to work from, which is why our newer versions are more accurate than the King James, even though, I've seen the vision. Chase is so tired and
You missed it.
But I was yeah. Apparently narcissists don't pray.
Okay. No, I was talking about seeing a vision in the King James.
Yes. When before you were born, you did. Just like me.
So King James not as accurate as these more modern texts because we have so much more manuscripts to work from.
True.
The Quran, on the other hand, only had Uthman's version. And even then there's differences between it. But that is a centralized authority that had the ability to change all the text. So if he wanted to substitute words or substitute sentences or add things to it, he could. Now he can't change it to the extent that the Muslims would have overwhelmingly rejected it, but there were many Muslims that protested his changes and said that there were changes in his version, such as Ibn Masud, as we mentioned earlier. If he had changed it completely, then the Muslims would have protested him, even though he was caliph. So it is likely minor changes. And what we see with the Uthmanic version versus the pre-Uthmanic version, they are mostly minor, although there are like things that were omitted, like the drinking thing we looked at, or like some of the minor theology is changed. But it's not major changes, but it's still corruption. So how can we trust it? If we know that it's corrupted to some extent, how can we trust that it was preserved to the extent you need to trust Allah, especially when Allah says that he would guard it? So you have that. Then you also have the other problems of the Quran, like the Qira'at differences. For example, in Surah 27, Ayah 82, it talks about how the beast will be coming against them. We will bring forth from them a beast from the earth, telling them that the people had no sure faith in our revelations. Well, this word for telling is interesting. It is tukalimihum. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but that is the word for speaking. Well, it turns out the word for wounding or the word for marking is very similar. It actually uses the same razm. It is taklimuhum. So instead of tukalehumum, it is taklimuhum, which is why Sheikh, I forgot his name again. The dude who says, "You're a kafir, get out of my house." That dude.
Yeah.
Qasim?
To Sneeko.
Yeah. Is that Sheikh Qasim?
Sheikh Asim al-Hakim.
Yeah. No, yeah, Hakim. Yeah, this dude. He has a YouTube video, and he has a couple of times where he's talked about it, where he says that every single qira'at, because all the qira'at translate it as speaking, but he says that's stupid. Of course it should be wounding the people or marking the people. So one of the qira'at, or one of the ways you can actually have this with the razm, with the vowels, is that it is the beast is wounding the people, and that sheikh says that is the proper way to have this sentence, and that every single one of the qira'at gets it wrong. And if you're comparing it to the Bible, it would be the correct way to translate that sentence because the beast marks people, the mark of the beast. So this is a canonical reading of the Quran, which is false according to several sheikhs that are currently alive and a bunch of scholars throughout history. It's the minority view, but I think it's the correct view. So you have problems of the Qira'at. You have problems with all of the differences between it. You have problems with the things being removed entirely. Lots of problems with the Quran. But why? But oh, you're just reading a comment?
No, yeah.
Oh, wait. This guy, he quoted something finally, and he didn't include quotation marks.
I know.
The first half
of
his quote.
Saying. Yeah.
Oh man. Oh wait, he said a sentence without any quotes. I'm so proud of you, my brother. I'm so proud.
Also,
yeah.
Indeed, those who insult Allah and His Messenger, Allah has cursed them in this world and the hereafter. Man, I'm cursed. But so I don't know if you saw this the video that David put out where Tucker Carlson was talking about Trump's tweet about bombing the infrastructure of Iran. He said, "Praise be to Allah" at the end.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And Tucker was like,
Allah.
no good person mocks another person's religion. And I just thought to myself, I was like, man, I can't think of a better person to be called a bad person by than Tucker Carlson. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. It's like, how do you know somebody's a good guy two ways. Either a good person calls him good or a bad person calls him bad. That's how you know. So if Allah thinks that I'm a bad guy for making fun of him and his prophet, that's how you know I'm a good guy.
Yep. So we have this question here: why Muslims use the choke points as the perfect line? Well, it's because the Jews do. I mean, I think that is just the answer. But we do have this question here, this guy here. Did you read I'm assuming Ibn Kathir? Tafsir in 2782? I did not, but I can bring it up.
Night light.
If there's a specific passage from this that you're thinking about. But yeah. The beast is supposed to speak to the people, but also we have the beast marking the people and everything else. Yes, on Ibn Kathir. What point do you have from here? The Ring of Suleiman.
Still the best story in all of Islam. And it's Jewish.
It will strike the nose of the disbelievers with the staff and make the face of the believer bright with the ring. Until when people gather to eat, then they will be able to recognize believers from the disbelievers. So this is the marks. This is why the reading should be the marks of the beast, not speaking to the beast. But yeah, we also get this common contradiction within the Muslim mind. Why do you mock the Bible when Allah confirms it constantly, hundreds of times in the Quran? But anyway, yeah, I've heard that one a bunch. Anyway, if you come up with a specific thing from here, we can go over it. But the manuscript dating of the Quran and talking about like, oh, well, the Quran is more reliable because we have manuscripts from the time of Muhammad, which is fair. They do have very, 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 very early manuscripts by the carbon dating of the parchments. Now, that does not necessitate that the parchments were written on right when they're made, and they typically weren't. But we can say, based on the earliest complete manuscripts, like the Topkapi, that manuscript is within 200 years of the death of Muhammad. It is 97% complete. It's only like 30 ayat that are missing. It is the most complete, oldest manuscript of the Quran. If you go into like the Birmingham, that's not really a great example. It's only 2 surahs. It's only partial of 2 surahs that are not even that large of surahs. It's a very small percentage of the Quran. Well, you do have some very complete Qurans within 200 years of Muhammad's death. For sure. Like the dating of the carbon dating for the materials around 100 years after, and they were likely written on before 200 years. So you have 8th century, 9th century Qurans that are mostly complete. That is around 100 years sooner than Sinaiticus or Vaticanus. Those are written in the early to mid 300s. But those are complete Bibles, both the Old Testament and the New Testament. Why is it that the Quran has earlier complete codices compared to the Bible? What's the major difference between those two books? You guys could probably logically figure it out. What was the main difference between early Christianity and early Islam?
It's spread, I'm assuming.
And its structure. Islam started as an empire. Christianity didn't become an empire until hundreds of years later. And as soon as it became an empire, we have manuscripts. Why is it that you need an empire to preserve these giant manuscripts? They're expensive. And you need professional scribes to care for the material and to store the material. Likely there was significantly more, like we probably had hundreds of thousands of manuscripts of the Bible written. We only have 25,000 remaining. But hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of manuscripts of the New Testament were probably written. We have a fraction that still remain. We have probably hundreds of thousands of manuscripts of the Quran written. Only a fraction of them remain. It's just a fact of history. Also, the Bible is 600 years older than the Quran. And 600 years is a lot of time, especially back then, for something to dissolve. So the fact that we didn't start preserving stuff until recently would mean that, yes, older books would dissolve faster. We don't really have much preserved from that time period in general. The Bible's manuscripts are actually some of the oldest manuscripts we have of anything in the world. So that's pretty weird in of itself, how many we have of the Bible. But the Bible was not professionally written down because they were persecuted for 300 years by the Romans. Christians were always under persecution. Muslims were not really under persecution as soon as Muhammad gained power. From that point onward, they were never under massive persecution. They were the persecutors. So they had an empire that quickly formed within 100 years. They were able to write a bunch of Qurans, not only because it's smaller, but because they had a standardized office dedicated to that practice. So we have a lot of early documents for the Quran, not because it's miraculously preserved, just because of the structure of the two systems. If the Christianity had the same initial empire set up as the Quran, we would find more intact early copies of the Bible. It's just something that would have happened. Now, it still would be few and far between, because again, that's a long period of people cannot rationalize how long that time period is for these books to even remain when these materials are supposed to go out after 200 years, 300 years, and they're still here now. That's crazy. And they're falling apart when people are studying them. So you have to be extremely careful with how you handle these. You have to have bare skin. You can't wear gloves because the latex destroys them. So you have to have the oils of your skin to help preserve the manuscripts, and they have to be stored in oxygen-free environments. So it's very, very difficult to keep these things around. But the Quran was written in a way at a time period that's just different than how the Bible's written in a time period. It's an obvious truism that you would expect to find more early Qurans than you would find of the Bible because of the system being so different between the two. But yeah, I think that's all my notes other than the method of corruption, which I wrote a really long response comment, so I might just read my comment that I wrote to a Muslim so we can hop off quicker rather than me going through that. You guys, any thoughts on any of that stuff we've covered so far?
No, I mean, like you said, that's I don't remember who I was talking to, but I remember bringing up to someone recently that Islam had almost everything going for it in the beginning that Christianity did not have. And it came up in a system that allowed it to completely flourish and take over predominant power of the surrounding area fairly quickly. I mean, I won't lie that for Muslims who argue that the rise of Islam seems almost miraculous, especially when you take into account some of the incompetencies of the individuals who are running it, that it does seem miraculous, and there could be some definitely some questions asked about how God raises people groups up for specific purposes. But yeah, there if you read into the early history of Islam, like from like the 620s to like the 700s, like 720s. You get some very funny stories, I would argue. How many is it? 5 caliphs in like 40 years? Hold on.
That was after she was dead, first of all, Faisy. Because so I believe that woman was raped and then killed.
She was already killed by that point.
She was raped and killed. And so in order to make an example of these people and to try and get them brought to justice, they cut her up into 12 pieces. I mean, it's graphic and it's gruesome.
Also, though, that story isn't that wasn't a divinely inspired moment.
Yeah, like the Lord.
That's literally human. That was a human history moment. That was just documenting that event happened, because you also have in that moment in that story, you have the guy from the tribe of Jacob. He pushed her out into the people.
Yeah,
like God did not command him to do that. He just did it. That doesn't change anything.
You say the tribe of Jacob?
Pretty sure he was a part of the tribe of Jacob, or was he? No, he was passing through Jacob. I'm sorry.
You mean Benjamin?
Oh, dude, it's so late. Yes, yeah.
I was gonna say
I'm sorry.
I
do mean Benjamin. I'm sorry. I'm so tired. I do.
I think he was Benjamite, but
Paul?
yeah. No.
Yeah.
The story in Judges where the guy, like, there were a bunch of people who raped and killed this girl.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember. I think they were passing through Benjamin. I don't think he was a Benjamite.
Well,
all the people living in Benjamin was probably Benjamites. That's how the system worked at the time.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons for Benjamin's, like, not excommunication, but like their punishment.
They were
essentially they were kind of they were not very well liked because of that, and because of the other thing that they did where they like essentially abducted a bunch of women.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of excommunicated. But yeah.
No, it's all after midnight for us.
Oh yeah, no, we're not in Pacific time.
Yeah. No, I wish I was. I should just make life harder for all the other people I stream with, because I don't stream. The only person I stream with on Pacific time is Israel Horowitz. So yeah, just make life harder. Is a Levite sojourning in the remote part of the hill country of Ephraim.
I knew it.
So it was neither. Benjamin was not involved.
It was Levi? Is that what you said?
Wait, what?
He was a Levite in the hill country of Ephraim.
Oh. I thought it was my fault. I was confused. Andrew's right, it is late.
I swear that there was something specific about Benjamin in that, because there was a whole rebellion against. Was it that the tribe of Benjamin didn't? Hold on, dude. I don't know.
You remember they did kind of sneak up and kidnap a bunch of women one time.
Well, they did that because of a punishment that got exacted on them, where a bunch of the men of their whole tribe got wiped out, and they did it because of that in response to try and preserve their line.
That didn't help, is what I'm saying.
No, it wasn't a good optic, but
Okay, so she cheated on him, and then they lived together, they traveled together, then they were traveling. This is in verse, so it's in Judges 19.
Yeah.
They were traveling to Benjamin, traveling through Benjamin.
Right. Okay.
And then that happened, but they were from Ephraim, and he was a Levite.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
Right.
I was like, man, am I remembering this that badly?
Moral of the story. So this guy essentially is trying to say that the Bible's worse because it records this girl getting cut up in 12 pieces. And we were like, well, first of all, that wasn't because the Lord asked them to do that. That was just because they were evil, sick people who did that. And secondly,
Right.
they cut her up to make an example of what those people had done and sent it out to the tribes.
Yeah. He also was likely very unhappy with his concubine anyway, because she had cheated on him. So, yeah. Like the story opens with, but his concubine played the harlot against him. So he was not happy with her to begin with. And then he allowed her to be abused in that way. And then he cut her up whenever he realized that she died from it and sent her around. And the whole thing is meant to be grotesque. It's meant to be shocking how evil Israel got whenever it didn't have God guiding them. Because that's the point. Israel is not special. They're not unique. They're unique that God loves them because of Abraham, but they're still human. They still will sin. That's the point. If we don't have God actively in our lives, we don't keep the law actively in our lives, we are going to go astray and we are going to sin in the same way. We are going to become like the people of Noah, like the people of the flood, whenever we get away from God. That's what we're looking at right now. Society without God right now is horrifying. It's wicked. It is evil. And it's only going to keep getting worse. That's the point. But anyway, I have one more thing I want to go over myself. Is there anything else you guys want to go over before I go over that?
No, but I do need to get to bed.
Yeah, it should only take me a couple, like 5 minutes to read.
Okay.
So I'll throw it up on the screen so people can read along. This was
throw up on your screen.
This was a response I did to a comment of, well, how can the Bible be corrupted, or how can the Quran be corrupted, and all that stuff. So the question is, for a Muslim watching right now, there's several Muslims in the comments. For a Muslim, just think about this for a moment. The Quran seems to be corrupted from the earliest sources, the most authentic sources of Islam that we have. But from just a logical perspective of how the Bible could be corrupted, it's the word of Allah. So why would it be corrupted? Whenever we think about a text, we have to know what motive was used for that to happen. When we think about any crime, you always think about it in terms of motives. Did person have a motive of, I guess I'll read through it rather than just re-explaining it. So you need to ask yourself a simple question. If humans, Jews specifically, were to corrupt the original text sent down by Moses through Allah, why did they corrupt it? What motive did they have? Motive is beyond important, as no one does anything outside of motive unless it's an accident, but the level of change you would need for all manuscripts is basically a miracle. And that's one of the main takeaways. Is the only method that could have happened for the Bible to be corrupted in the way that Muslims need it to be, for the Quran to remain true, to escape the Islamic dilemma, you would basically have to say that Allah himself corrupted it. But Allah calls the Torah the Furqan. Why would Allah change it? Why would Allah corrupt his own text? So let's go through motive and ability to change these texts with some specific examples. I really hope you consider this, as this could change everything for you. I want you to think hard on this and answer truthfully. For Moses sinning in Numbers 20 by hitting the rock with the staff twice by his own authority to produce water, what motive did Jews have to change this text? Because this is Moses sinning. So what motive did Jews have to change this text? There are only 3 types of motive to change scriptures: theological and doctrinal, which is what we have in Islam, political and power, which is what we have in Islam, money, sex, I guess I should have 4 here, and ethical or moral. If you're embarrassed by something and you want to change it to make the morality slightly better, which we kind of have in Islam, but not nearly to the same extent. We get this a lot with the later hadith that come hundreds of years later. We get a lot of this change and a lot of that change, and some of this change and some of that change, as they're starting to justify more and more of their own proclivities. But for the Jewish example, for the scribes of the Jews, did they have a theological reason to change the text? Answer is no. If Jews wanted to change the text for theological reasons, they wouldn't corrupt it so their most holy, important prophet sinned. If he was truly sinless, why would they add sin to Moses? That would weaken the image of Moses as this unshakable guy who faithfully served Yahweh. Later on, rabbis actually reverse this and remove the passage and make Moses sinless. But we're talking about manuscripts of the Bible that we have before rabbis came about. We're talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. We're talking about the LXX. We're not talking about the Masoretics. We're talking about texts that come before the rabbis started changing the text, before the time of Muhammad. This is what we're talking about. Was it political or for power? No. There was no incentive for such random scribes to change this detail about Moses. There was no Jewish empire. There was no massive kingdom that needed Moses to sin to create some symbol for people to follow, like Romulus in Rome. There was no central control of the Bible at this point, and history, as we can see from the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls were not made by the government. They were made by an apocalyptic tribe of Jews that lived in caves on the outskirts of town. Was it for sex or money? No. The scribes didn't get anything from this. They were living in caves. So why would they change this? This is unlike the Quran, which bestows Muhammad over and over again with special favors. Like, you have unlimited sex slaves, unlimited wives. If anyone wants to talk to you, they have to pay you money. Like, the Quran gives special favors. The Bible doesn't. How would a Jew, hundreds or thousands of years later, saying that Moses sinned, give them money or make them popular with the ladies? It wouldn't. Scribes didn't get anything from doing this. So was it for ethical and moral reasons? No. If anything, again, that would elevate the standard of following God, even this little event was enough for God to make Moses not enter the promised land. So now God is even stricter than that. Like, oh, well, God is saying that perfection is the standard. Even if you were to just do this little teeny tiny sin, that was enough to keep him from the promised land. That's a crazy, crazy thing. But again, why would the scribes elevate the standards of following God if the original was lower? And why would they portray their leader in a negative light if he was originally sinless? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. So there was no motive for Jews to alter this text in the Bible, in the Torah. So was it an accident? No. We have a bunch of manuscripts in multiple languages that show that this event happened, that Moses did sin in this way. And every single manuscript we have of the Old Testament agrees on that point. There's no dissension. Even in the later rabbinic manuscript scrolls that we have, like the ones from like Aleppo Codex, all agree Moses was a sinner. Islamic and rabbinic beliefs and ideas about this make Moses not into a sinner, and add all this extra stuff to him. But we don't find it in the text. So why did the scribes do this? And even did they even have the ability to do it? Because that would require every single manuscript in existence to systematically be altered, to have every prophet in the Old Testament sin in some way, and include all these stories that you find wrong. All of that would have to be altered in every single manuscript all over the world in the same way, at the same time, in an undetectable way in history, from archaeology, from all these languages we have. We have it in 4 languages. All of that would have to be done instantaneously, and none of the Jews complain about it or change it back to how it was originally. That level of alteration is something that only God could do by wiping the minds of everyone in history and completely changing the timeline of history to be a different timeline. This is a level of miracle that is greater than the creation of the universe. It is insane, because it's basically creating a new universe. He's creating something entirely different. where every single book and every single memory and every single, like, because this also like stone. We have some of the stuff on stone inscribed in caves. Like, so much of this had to be changed all at once. That is, and the more you think about it, the worse it gets. Like, because you have to change everything all over the world in all these ways, in all these languages. And how? How? It's literally, it's a miracle. My God, it's a miracle. Like, how? Unless Allah changed it miraculously, it couldn't have happened. But why would Allah change it? It's His word. And then, so like, would just curse the Jews? But Allah loves the people who follow Him. And the Jews at that time were following Him because they had the correct revelation. He says that they only stopped following Him because they had the incorrect revelation. So why would He cause them? Why would He force them to have different revelation that then cause them to become kafirs? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
But if He can do it with the Jews, how can you trust Islam? Why isn't Mormonism true? Why isn't Joseph Smith the final prophet? Why isn't that just an abrogation? Why isn't the Mahdi or any of the other like post-Mohammedan prophets that came about? Why aren't they the final messenger? Like, oh, it's because only well, couldn't Allah just make you think the seal of the prophets was real, but really it wasn't, and that's abrogated? So if you're saying that the Bible is altered, there's no motive, there's no ability, it wasn't an accident, it couldn't have happened in history unless God directly did it and changed everything for all time. So how could the Bible be altered? And it just can't. If it wasn't altered, then Islam is false because the Islamic dilemma holds. Even if it was altered, the Islamic dilemma holds, and it's still false. But like, you have to be able to answer these questions as a Muslim. You like intellectually think about this. I have several Muslims in the chat. Spice Boy, think about this. When was it changed? How was it changed? Why was it changed? How much of it was changed? Can you point back to what was changed and what wasn't changed? What's original and what's not? If you can't answer those questions, then you have a blind faith. We have very good evidence for the Old Testament and the New Testament being preserved. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have the Septuagint. We have the Aramaic. We have so many texts that are very old, very ancient, that shows what the original has said. We have the same thing with the New Testament. We don't really have that with the Quran in the way that we have it with the Bible. But even if we did, why does it affirm the Bible in all these ways? And why do you believe that it has to be changed? If the Quran is confirming the Bible and it couldn't have been changed other than by Allah's own hand, why do you have all this? What's happening? So then you also have to ask the question of, could this have happened to the Quran? Was there motive to change the Quran? The answer is yeah. I can get more sex. I can get more money. I can get more slaves. I can get more power. I can get more position. Like, we have a bunch of motives of the early caliphs and Muhammad himself altering the text of the Quran, changing his revelations to get special favors, to get things that they want. You have motive there. How can we trust the Quran? Especially when the Quran gets God's name wrong. Yeah.
And then we've got the guy, Quran is not confirming the Bible. It confirms the Injil and the Torah, not the Bible.
All right. So again, that is the Bible.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question.
It's confirming the Kitab. Kitab means book. Bible means book. It's confirming the book. Anyway.
Faizi, my question for you. If the established book was the Bible, because here's the thing. The Quran surfaces in the, I'll be generous and say the late 700s. as a full completed text that can be circulated. But Muhammad comes around in the 600s. We have Bibles circulating from 350 to when Muhammad was around. And you're saying, oh, well, it doesn't come and confirm the Bible. It confirms the Injil and the Torah and the Injil. Why do you have the authority to claim what those books are? How do you have any authority? How does the Quran have any authority to claim what those books are? When it comes 300 years at the earliest, it could possibly come from a completed Bible, not from the works themselves, but a completed, fully circulated Bible. Muhammad did not have the authority to claim that those texts were corrupted, didn't have the authority to claim that any of what he was claiming, and you're following it blindly. I'm sorry, but you need to understand there's no actual evidence that our Bible does not contain the actual Injil and the actual Torah. Your book is just making up nonsense and you're following it blindly. You are truly following it blindly, and you refuse to see criticism that what you're doing is following it blindly. You don't know that. You don't know what the Torah and the Quran is. Hold on. What is the Torah and what is the Injil? Since apparently those are the books, the Torah, the Injil, and the Quran is the word of God. What is the Torah and what is the Injil? That's not in our Bible.
The Tarats.
Right?
If the Quran, or not the Quran, the Tarat's probably the Talmud.
If the books in our Bible right now are not the actual Torah and the actual Injil, what are they? Because you don't have an answer to that. You don't know what they are. You're claiming that the Quran never even claims that the actual Torah and Injil are either missing or corrupted. That claim's not in the Quran. So where are you coming up with this? I know it's a repeated phrase by Muslims, but it's not real. It's cope. It's genuine cope. I can tell it's late because I'm getting short fused. What? Hey, FaZe, this is my issue, dude. This is my issue. You're being blind right now. Why should you believe that Muhammad will preserve the Quran if he hasn't preserved the Torah and the Injil? If he let the Torah and the Injil be corrupted, that means he has a terrible track record of preserving his word. Why should you trust that he can preserve the Quran?
Right. And as we went over in this stream, the Quran's not preserved. It just doesn't. Especially things like the Battle of Yamama. Like we don't even know how much of the Quran is lost. That's crazy. We're unsure of how much of the Quran there should be.
Yeah, think about all those people who were killed in that battle, and like almost all of the reciters were killed. Like it's ridiculous.
My man Spice Boy thinks the Didache is nearly the Injil. Brother, the Didache wasn't even written by the disciples.
The Didache doesn't even contain the Didache is not. So what I often hear is that the Injil is the red letters of the Bible, essentially. That it's just the works of Jesus. Yeah. Spice Boy, you've never read the Didache if you think the Didache is the Injil. The Didache is literally just a structure of what the church was doing and what they believed in the first century. Mm-hmm. That's not, it had no like sayings of Jesus or anything outside of quoting the New Testament, but that is not the Injil. I mean, if you want to say that, that's fine. If you want to put a claim on that,
I'll take that, dude.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can prove Islam is false so many ways by saying that this is the Injil. Like you have no idea how bad that is for you if that's what you're confirming.
How nearly is it the Injil? Well, according to you, it's the Didache.
FaZe, I know you don't believe that the Injil is the Bible. I know that. I've said that. I'm claiming, how do you know that? If your answer is the Quran says so, first off, it doesn't. Second, that's circular. You don't have an actual argument. after all this stuff you've been saying tonight, I just need you to hear you don't have a real argument. You have a circular argument. The argument is the Torah and the Injil in the Bible are not the actual Torah and the Injil. Why do you think that? Oh, because the Quran says so. Oh, the Quran that came 300 years after a completed Bible? Huh. That's circular. It's logically inconsistent. That doesn't work. You can't have the later work try to correct the prior work when the prior work came out significantly before, and there's no good evidence to support that anything had actually been changed or corrupted. And
So
again,
I made a video
the
on
Quran
this.
doesn't make that claim. Sorry, go ahead.
So the GDK, first off, the GDK teaches Jesus is God and also teaches the Trinity. So just right out the rip, that's not gonna work for you. But I made a video on what is the Injil a couple weeks ago. I went through every single gospel and how they do not agree with Islam. Every single gospel says that Jesus is either crucified, wasn't crucified, but is God. He's God. It's like the vast majority of all the Gnostic gospels, because the Gnostics believed Jesus was God. They didn't deny his divinity, they denied his human flesh.
Yeah.
Largely speaking. So all of these other fake gospels that you're referring to here, they were saying either he was crucified or he's God, or both. Or that Mary wasn't a virgin. Which again, there's not a single gospel. You can go by any of them. There's not a single gospel that first off agrees with the Quran, with essential doctrines. There's just not. There isn't. And even the ones that it quotes from, like the Infancy Gospel of James, and the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, and the Arabic Infancy Gospel, those contradict each other. And all of them start with Jesus is God. Like if you've read the opening to the Infancy Gospel of James, it literally opens with like, praise be to Jesus, our God. It's like, the Quran quotes a book that praises Jesus as God. Let that sink in. Just think about that for a moment.
Wow.
Read the Infancy Gospel of James, read the Infancy Gospel of Thomas. Both of those call Jesus God. Both of those are quoted in the Quran as part of the Injil. Why?
So as we're wrapping this up, I just want it to be said, I'm gonna clip this segment, you reading that, and then the back and forth I just had there, and this little part here, and I just want it to be known how everything that we've said in the live chat, they refuse to acknowledge. They refuse to see how their arguments are circular. They refuse to see any actual reason. They've not given any reason from the Quran to explain how or why they believe that the Torah and the Injil in the Christian Bible are not the real Torah and Injil. They don't have an argument. The argument is, oh, the Imam said so. The argument is, oh, the Quran says so. It doesn't say so. There's no part of the Quran that says that the Torah and the Injil have been corrupted. That is not there. So they don't have an argument. The argument is circular. And I just want to know, I want everyone to know that because this will probably be where I end the clip video when I edit it later. There was no argument.
Yeah. Also, just to cap that off, Ebionites laughing at you. The Ebionites denied many things that you affirm as Muslims. They cannot be the true followers of Christ. They can't. You don't even know what the way is. The way is just the early church.
Yeah.
For like, he said that the way laughing at you. You don't even know what the way is, and you don't even know what the Nazarenes are. But to say that Ebionites, my brother, they, if I remember correctly, it's one of the other ones, they deny Jesus is God, they affirm the crucifixion, and they deny the virgin birth. So they are agreeing with you that Jesus is not God, that he's just a man, just a prophet, but they're disagreeing with you in the following of the Torah, and they're disagreeing with you in him being from a virgin and him being crucified. They believe he was crucified, and they believe he was not from a virgin. The Ebionites are not your friends. They do not follow your beliefs. They would be kafir by the Quran standards. You do not know history. very well if these are the examples you're bringing up.
With that being said,
Just
I'm
study,
gonna make
just
like
read.
history and and be in the and leave.
Yeah, I think we can all hop off. Okay, any conclusion
everybody.
thoughts?
No, only that
No.
Islam is weird, and I'm so tired.
Good night, everybody.
Okay. May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and fellowship of the Holy Spirit with you always. Thank you for coming out. God bless. Good night.